Abraham was a holiday. A holiday.
Y'all, look who I got up late at night.
Hello. Reporting live from the bunker. Okay, not quite.
I wish.
I know.
There was this time. Can I tell them? I'm going to tell you guys.
Go ahead.
I always had this deep dream that my wife and I would be inside a former converted Minuteman II missile silo, specifically in the middle of the
Kansas.
I'll tell them. All right, yeah, we had it picked out and everything, you guys. We were die hard in the wool preppers. We are in the thick of this is day 4 without power out here, and so like we are getting tested severely. This is the most light we've had right here.
It's been a lot of headlamps. A lot of headlamps.
There's a collection of headlamps behind us because we're going to talk about some of the hard-earned lessons right now.
Should have had a lot of more candles and lanterns. We cannot get our lantern game under. Do y'all know how to do lamps, lanterns, oil lamps? Can you help us? We need help.
Major fail. Major fail. You see that sweet, I have this like 1887 Miners Edition lantern up there that I was like, this is perfect because I'm always thinking about caves. Yeah. Oh, I guess pull them down. Yeah. I'm always thinking about caves and tunnels and mines and deep silos where we're going to like, my wife and I would sit there as the world was ending and we were going to just send out radio reports and be like, you are the remnants. Hang in there. That's like what we had in mind. We were traveling back to Colorado covertly to go get a bunch of stuff a couple years ago. And I was like, honey, I found an Airbnb inside a missile silo. I wanted to film an entire miniseries that we would release Dead Man Switch style when all the crap hit the fan.
It was rather expensive.
We couldn't swing it. It was like $600 a night. We're like, no, we'll sleep in a hotel. Yep. We slept in an Airbnb that was like a tiny house instead, which was fun.
And then found out we were pregnant with the twins.
I tried to push. They're sweet, suffering, wonderful.
With twinning.
I'll tell you, my wife and I have been getting grunted up because of it, though. She's so much fitter, and I'm so much fitter now than we would have if we just had solo, you know?
Our backs have gotten quite a workout. Our babies love to be in the backpacks. So we've been hiking, doing a lot of hiking, trying to just get stronger because we've been feeling like something was coming. And we're like, we have got to get in better shape. And yes, we've been trying. That's all I have to say.
I'm glad we were too, because there was this guy. I got really inspired by a guy a while back. There's a couple guys I'm going to just throw out there right now for those of you that just want to know. 2 major, helpful, practical preparedness individuals that have jump-started my tenacity again and given me some piss and vinegar in the fuel tank to just be a man and a warrior again. I say that. I can say whatever I want now. I've lost all the fear of men. I just don't care anymore whatsoever. Listen, we've gone through enough just snot sandwiches, just disgusting, horrible, gut-wrenching, wicked, disgusting people in the last 18 months that I just don't care anymore. And I've realized it's way better to just communicate directly and just who cares?
Just be direct.
just be direct now and be like, you know what? I don't care. Let Yahuwah sift them out. I believe Yeshua is sifting out all the wheat from the chaff in a powerful way. And we have found a whole bunch of false teachers, and we have found so many wolves in the flock. And we found places that just facilitate harboring wolves. And then when shepherds show up, they hate them, and we're like, so be it. We've shaken the dust of our shoes off as a witness against a lot of places. Like, got out of our RV.
Yep, it's true.
Shook it off.
It's true.
Don't mess around, man. It'd be worse than Sodom in that place. I'm just telling you. It's been wreckage. And anyways, we've learned a hard lesson about just speak your mind plainly. Just speak it plainly.
Just talk about it.
But I found
get it all out there in the air.
Early. Don't stuff it. I'm telling you, because you know what? During crisis, all that stuff's coming out anyways. All that stuff's coming out. If you come from a family where everyone stuffs everything, it's coming out when everything's bad. You know what I'm saying? It gets bad fast. But listen, one guy, super inspirational, incredible zealot for the kingdom of righteousness, Jamie Walden. He's Omega Dynamics. Fan-stinking-tastic. Pour some gasoline in your exhausted, decrepitly, embarrassedly sad state of mind. Super good for you. I go to him when I want like a pump up. I go to Kingdom Intelligence Briefing and Michael Lake and Mary Lou when I want some like Kingdom Fire, the remnants. Those folks, you know what I'm saying? They pump me up. But there's another guy who also talks about some more practical preparedness stuff when it comes to Minutemen militia. You know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that for what the difference of standardization of loadouts and physical fitness and whether or not you can actually like make it through. His name is Grunt Proof on YouTube. His playlist, Tactical Philosophy. Just spend some time over there. Seriously. Standardize your loadouts, y'all. Like, we learned so much in the last 4 days. I went in to do a whole bunch of recon today and to try to get some supplies because, dang it, we failed terribly. The lantern life, fuel oil, fuel lamps, bar oil, chain oil for like chainsaws, gone. Lamp oil, gone. You know, all the eggs, all the chicken, all of the ice, all the water, all that stuff. Like, you go around and you start to see like what's missing. And we're in an area where people aren't totally freaking out yet, but just not far away, within 45 minutes, people are stabbing and shooting and stealing each other's stuff within the first 24 hours of this hurricane coming through and smashing into it. Like, it did not take long for people to resort to that. I talked to this gal at a gas station today whose eyes were still pinned in shock, you know, like somebody who worked there. And she said within 12 hours of them losing power and cell phone and communications, their bridge washed out from their apartment complex. And they were like, we're trapped here. We're trapped. And they just freaked out. She said we couldn't make any phone calls. We couldn't find out what was going on out there. We just started freaking out. She's like, I had no way to feed my children and my dogs. She's like, we're like, my friend and I were like, well, let's just start breaking into other people's houses and getting stuff for ourselves. So that's what they did. Within 12 hours, they resorted to just absolute take whatever they could get and strong arm robbery. Like, that fast. This was a woman. This is like a woman, not like a big, fit, strong lady. Just a woman who had some tenacity and some criminal mindset that immediately went that way. And I tried to talk to her because she finally came up to an area that wasn't so chaos, wasn't just total freak out everywhere. And you could tell she was just decompressing, you know, like people had water and she was just like trauma state still. And she's still, even though I'm trying to explain to her like basic things, do you have a backpack? Do you have quality shoes? Do you have a way to like, she's like, I just need to feed my dogs. And I'm like, you can feed your dogs table scraps. You can feed your dogs trash. You can get rid of your dogs immediately because they're serving no real purpose for your life. You know,
feed yourself. Feed yourself first, not the dogs. Who cares?
She was stuck.
I know, it's sad.
You've seen it before.
It's sad. It is. But when these catastrophes happen, sometimes it's very paralyzing for people. And they're literally like, they're not thinking ahead. They're literally like just reacting. And they're not planning. They're not thinking like, what am I going to need, you know, in 2 days from now? What am I going to need in a week from now? What am I going to need in a month from now, even if the power still doesn't turn on? You know, like a common theme lately has been, you know, as neighbors have been driving by and we've been appreciating the updates, you know, as we've been going for walks because it's been raining for 3 days straight.
5 days now.
Okay, more than that. I've lost track of the days, clearly. But it's been raining a lot and being cooped up inside with 4 children is intense. And so we've been going for walks. We even went out for a walk the other day with our ponchos on, which junk poncho. Terrible
Fail.
poncho. It was one of those.
It's right over there. I staged the scene. Just show them because somebody's going to order it on Amazon if we don't tell them and warn them off of it. Just go grab it. It's right over there. Over there. I've got props. We got to talk about gear reviews because we've had to put some stuff to the test, you know?
I thought, I've been wanting to put some emergency blankets. I've been feeling this, like, you guys, for a while, like for a couple months now. I've just been feeling this, like, need to prepare for something this fall, or like, I don't know. I just have been feeling this burden, and mine in particular was to be getting a medical kit together for my family, a good first aid kit for my family and a good one for the car. Because we don't have that. And we have had people get hurt when we're out on adventures, or, you know, my children will even be opening an Amazon package, you know, with a knife and cut themselves, or I don't know, whatever it is. And anyway, we have Band-Aids in the car, but that's about it. That's about the extent of it.
I've got a trauma kit. You know this. We've used it a lot.
True. We have used it a lot, actually, but I personally don't have a medical kit in there. Okay. And I could be better and I should be better. And anyway, I've been feeling this burden. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start building this medical kit and I'm going to make this thing. And I need some of those like emergency blankets, those, you know, emergency thermal blankets, the Mylar blankets. And so I was looking some up on Amazon, and then I was like, well, if we're in our car and we get stranded somewhere or whatever, and then we have to walk home, you know, I have all these children that could be cold, it could be rainy, it rains a lot here. And so we were like, okay, maybe some like Mylar ponchos. So we ordered these things. They're total junk.
Let me tell you why. Here's the thing. Here's the rule. Okay, Reynolds been prepping a long time. Let me just put it this way. We've been prepping for a long time. Let me grab that bag.
I was like, oh, a poncho would be better than like having them wrap a blanket around themselves and try to walk like that. Like you could just like throw on a poncho, then you have a hood, you're kind of camouflaged, and then you're warm.
Grab that thing.
This?
Yeah. Let me just show you what I've practically used more. Yeah.
Is that what you're wanting?
That is what I want. No, that is what I want. Like, okay, just like I met a guy who made he took a wool blanket, like an army issue 100% wool blanket. We've been freaks, right? You guys know we're like freak linenite thing, right? There's a reason for that. We're not just like psycho freaks for no reason. Like this comes because we've intentionally made our life miserable. Like my family has embraced the suck for a long time. You know, like I have stress inoculated my family by living in an RV and traveling around and going without water and power and difficult situations and roaming around the countryside. Like we've intentionally made our lives uncomfortable on a regular basis so that our children are it's more normal to them. Like, yes, our entire outdoor kitchen was smashed and our canopies were destroyed. And it was just like, and it's like, oh yeah, probably should have taken the canopy down when it was a hurricane on the forecast. Doofusville. Totally missed that. Totally missed that. I got water filled. I did a lot of good things. Yeah. I had some super epic fails, including taking down, we've been living in a very difficult situation as it is for, I don't know, 6 months. What are we, yes. 5 months? We elected to move into like a single bedroom apartment over a garage that was on a very good property, like a great property to live on. But the house that we went to move into was super bad mold. And so we couldn't move into that. And so the landlords are like, they'll renovate the garage space and turn it into an additional living space. But we have been living in a 1-room house, not even a bedroom. It was like just a room. It was going to be my studio, right? I was going to have this lifelong dream of Nathanville is to have like a super epic studio, just a studio where nobody interrupted me and the door was closed and it had a door made of solid oak, reinforced with heavy, immense amounts of Corinthian marble. Just awesome door. It was sound. And I thought I had that upstairs. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then we decided to still stay on this property and move our entire family into that 1-room place and forego living and renting other houses. But but we knew this thing had something that was most valuable to us that we have traveled all over the world for, all over the country for. Springs. We have found the most valuable single thing in preparations is water.
With land.
Yes.
Is water. And if you can find one that has a spring on it, it's amazing.
Primary water, year-round spring is 100% on the highest of our checklists. Always has been. Like, I would rather live somewhere that has springs on it than almost anything else. To me, that's priority number one and always has been and always will be because I grew up in the mountainous deserts of the Southwest and I learned very early on, like the most fundamental things is getting water. Everything else becomes secondary in a lot of ways, you know?
Water is life. Water is life in a big way.
And even in an area where there's lots of water, like the people have, this woman today could not articulate. I was trying to explain to her getting water because she was freaking. People are freaking out, losing their minds because they can't shower. Like we have had more people punch the ticket. I'm not kidding. They've quit. They've like left their redoubt. They've left their little mountainous retreat places because they can't get hot water for showering. And I'm like, dang, cold water plunges do you good.
Getting that cold water.
It makes them tougher. But you like, people can't even think like that. I'm trying to explain to this lady. I'm like, you know, you live by some of the best water in the entire world. It's like the water coming out of these creeks is like majestic. You could swim in that and shower off and bathe off. It's like wonderful. You'll feel great. You'll be invigorated and filled with all kinds of incredible endorphins. Like you feel amazing. She was like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. I'm like, you could get water from that too and filter it and drink it. And then like, she could not register any of these things I was talking to her about. Could not. She had no category to think about this stuff. She couldn't even think about it. It was like, I was like, I'm casting pearls before swine. I have a redundancy of water filtration systems with me on any given time. And I'm like, maybe I'll give this gal one. Maybe but she was unfit for it. Could not even contain it. I knew it. I'm like, She literally will never use it. You know, I'd be like, here's a life straw. You can drink out of water, contaminated water with it. No problem. She couldn't use it. You know, it was like these things shut down in people's minds and they're unable to think critically, you know, and it's like we have done our best to try to inspire people Joseph style for years. Like, hey, listen, Joseph made preparations of grain for fundamental reasons because it's storable and cook and you can have it and not have it contaminated. Like it's not going to just mold up suddenly overnight. Like power went out, our fridges go out, you know, your freezers, even if you have freezers, unless you got a generator that runs on something like propane. Biggest lesson and takeaway from this entire time was like, we got to be able to cook your food, cook your grain, cook your breads.
As long as it's stored properly, I think grain could pretty much keep indefinitely. I really do feel like that. Like I feel like it could just, as long as it's stored properly. And we love Sue Becker's grain because she stores it really well. She like vacuum seals it in there with
Carbon dioxide.
and in 5-gallon buckets too instead of bags. I know sometimes it's a lot to go from like ordering Azure standard grains in the bags and then getting them actually stored in your buckets. It's hard. It's hard to get to that step, but it's a really important step. If you can do that, your grain will last so much longer. And then you won't have the risk of, you know, rats getting in there or mice getting in there, contaminating it.
Or getting wet.
Water.
Or getting wet and
mold.
being ruined, you know?
Mold or flies or whatever, you know, if there's a small hole in the bag, like we've seen that. It's so bad. Oh, we've seen an open bag of rice that was brown rice and it was just kind of rolled up but like not super sealed, and anyway, flies got in there and laid larvae in there, and the larvae were like crawling around on the rice like so bad, you know? So I mean, yeah, you don't want to spoil your grain. Your grain can last a long time. Just properly store it. It'll be all right. And actually, even if you have an open container, like we have ours, most all of our grain is in 5-gallon buckets. But even if it's opened and you're using it every day with those
Gamma seal.
Oh, I love those things. Those Gamma Seal lids, those are a must for grain storage too. Because if you're getting into that bucket frequently, it seals it really tight and snug so that water doesn't get in there. And you can just easy on, easy off, easier than those 5-gallon bucket really tough to get off and on sealed lids. So the Gamma Seal lids are so much better. But anyway, if you're getting in and out of your grain constantly, that's fine. But even with a bucket like that with grain that you're accessing all the time, I think that grain is even good for like up to a year, like that. And you're gonna eat it way sooner than that. But anyway, yeah, grain's a great thing to store, y'all. Like if you couldn't eat anything else and you just stored grain and you stored some salt, because bread is better with salt.
Season all of your offerings with salt. Every salt all your meals, you know, fundamentals. You've been lied to that salt's a problem. Just death salt, known as table salt, iodized, just death salt is a problem, you know, but real true sea salt. We love Baja Gold sea salt. Yes. We buy it from Tractor Supply. I don't care if they tell you it's not safe for people to eat. I don't care. They're liars. We've been eating it just fine for a year, and I can buy it by 25-pound bags, 50-pound bags. And what is the brand? What is it called? What is it?
C90?
C90.
Is it C90?
C90. Yeah. They sell it as C90. It's their sea salt. We've been eating it just fine. Yes, occasionally there's a rock in here.
Yeah.
Hard day, son. Oh, pray for mercy. Pay attention. Anyways, we love it. It's one of the best, most complex, rich salts. Celtic sea salt's another option. We just love the Baja Sea Gold salt, but we couldn't afford it by the pound that way, so we just bought a Tractor.
You can use salt for so much, and it's just a good thing to store, you know. And it doesn't matter how bland the food is. If you just season it with a little bit of salt, it will always make it taste better. You don't have to store up tons of different spices and seasonings. Just store some salt. So yeah.
And olive oil.
Grain,
those have been our big ones.
Olive oil. Honey is another one that literally does not go bad. Does not. It may crystallize, but it does not go bad. Like you can just, like I said, properly stored, it'll keep pretty indefinitely, I feel like. So honey's another great one to store too. Because who doesn't love a little honey? It does help boost morale.
She's not joking. I was just going to do this video where I was in full preparedness mode, tactical. Like, listen, dude, I've just been off the mountain. Like, I've been checking in with people and checking into the network and seeing how people are doing and finding out where things are rough out there. Like, I go out a warrior. You know what I'm saying? And I come home and I'm like, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of information gathered. There's a lot of crooks and criminals who are glassing. And listen, a lot of people are taking notes of who doesn't live in this house currently because there's no 911. Fiber optic got wiped out. Up here, like all of the damage and all of the landslides and all of the catastrophic amounts of rain. We had 25 inches of rain within 48 hours, and we are up high. You know, we're on ridges. It's a huge difference between the people that are down in farming country, the people that are in the lowlands. Like I have these 3D relief topographical maps that I use to teach my children and to show them what the area we live in looks like, what the Appalachians actually look like. And you can see where cities are made, where big cities are always made, is areas that are generally flatter. The lowlands, which is more conducive to things like farming and agriculture, right? And just for building. It's just a lot easier to build. But those are the consolidations of where groups of people tend to gather, right? But I'm always far more interested in places where rural tends to be more religious, more conservative, and a whole lot more preparedness minded to begin with as a base layer, because we live in an area where we lost power already. This summer, we lost power and we lost water on our property multiple times. We lost water for 4 days. And that's enough to make you be like, oh my gosh.
We had one storm and the power went on and off 12 times during the night. 12 times. And in those 12 times of it going on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, it burned out our hot water heater, the hot water heater in the other house. It burned out our spring house pump. What else did it burn out? Was there something else? I thought there was one other thing. But anyway, internet. It burned out the internet. And we were just like, oh my gosh, from one storm and the power going on and off so many times, like we realized how delicate this area could be when storms come through, let alone a hurricane. Of course we're going to lose power, you know? So what do?
We got a generator, you know, that was, and I specifically went and got a generator that ran off listen, we lived off a generator a lot for years in the RV. Yep. So like we drove around, we have a
very helpful tool.
we figured out for me in the RV, the two most important tools that I had in my possession was that generator, which was an 8,000 watt Cummins diesel, like quiet generator, but it was a quiet or Onan, Onan, maybe. Yeah. Either way, it worked beautifully. That was the only major piece that I ever had a major problem with, because my air conditioner for my dash dripped down onto it. The drain, bad design. So the first year we were driving it, it drained down onto it when we drove down into this area in Texas and destroyed the CPU kind of area. It was one big massive thing, $3,000. Like that was brutal. And otherwise, that thing ran like a champion. It was amazing.
Because when you are not plugged in anywhere, if you're not in a designated campsite and you're traveling across the U.S., you know, like we were, and you're trying to just boondock, you're trying to just stay the night here or stay the night there, you need to turn on your generator to cook a meal or to, you know, turn on the lights to brush you, whatever. Charge up your batteries. Yeah, turn on your water pump, like so you can brush your teeth and flush the toilet or whatever it is, you know, take your shower. Like you have to run that generator when you're boondocking. And so when you don't have that, that is just, it's very difficult. Yeah. Very difficult.
And we needed it to charge up our batteries. You know, we didn't have solar. Solar would have been a huge, wonderful blessing to have. Try not to kick that. You'll kick the camera right over. I've done it before. Oh. Trust me, it's awkward. People see everything. They see all of your everything. But the stabilizing jacks were the second major thing that was a lifesaver for me, because our house would be unlevel, catastrophically so. All and you'll get horrible migraines and headaches when you start sleeping unlevel. Oh, yeah. Like, no, we had some broskies we traveled with. Shout out to you guys, Wegmans. We loved you. But bro, they got headaches bad because they'd be all like,
blood's run into the back of your head.
And you're like, do you sleep feet first or head first or sideways? Well, our fridge got totally wrecked one time because we were parked on level and we had a liquid propane 120 and 12 volt fridge. So it had 3 different modes that it could power itself with. Amazing tool. You want to talk about during crisis like this? Invaluable. Yeah. If I could be running my fridge off liquid propane right now, I'd be stinking killing it right now. Yep. But like, we just had to abandon one of our fridges. You're like, that's it. We've been living out of a mini fridge anyways for 4 months. What's new? We lived out of a cooler for a long time too.
Yep.
But that fridge had problems after that, because when we were parked unlevel, it crystallized in the coolant, the liquid ammonia or whatever.
Who knew?
We learned the hard way. You betcha. That was like a $6,000 thing we could never afford to replace, so we didn't. I cut it in half with a hacksaw, just sprayed ammonia everywhere into the room, and just ran for my life. North Carolina was savage the first time we were here. It was great, but we learned some good lessons. But we lived out of a mini fridge there too. We got a mini fridge, put it in there.
Yep.
We never got a full-size fridge again. So we've been learning how to like live with less, just incrementally.
But the generator has been.
It was invaluable.
Yeah. Well, no.
And the generator during this. Yeah. So I got a
this.
generator over the summer because of that whole debacle. I was like, well, we can plan on intermittent power outages up here just as the baseline. So we've never known we were going to have somewhere we could stay a while, for, I don't know, we've moved 8 times in the last year. 8 times in the last year alone. Reynolds always be moving.
Yep.
And so we've never really been able to prep in the same way. Man, when we were in Colorado, we prepped hard. We prepped hard. We're like super extremists, obviously. Freaks. Total freaks. We prepped like crazy. We had a network of people. We had a communication system. We had people that were like medically trained, surgeon, like mechanics, people that were like dialed in. We had stashes and caches all over the state. I had redundancies of people's keys, like we were dialed in. But let me tell you, at the end of it, when we got called to the road and the father was like, go, we're like, okay, we had to give away the preps. We gave away like everything, almost everything. It was brutal. I have one tote. That's it.
Even the woman's tote.
Oh, tell them about that.
I prepped a woman's tote because women have their time of the month.
You can just say period. It's a word.
Okay. Well, anyway, there's that issue that comes up. And yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, yes, theoretically, you could make reusable pads like, the you can wash and reuse. Sure, go for it. If you can do that and make a for yourself, go for it, which I would advise you. And then they also had this thing called the Diva Cup. Hilarious. It was like a reusable tampon. I had one of those though. I had the reusable pads, but I still had a bunch of other womanly items that were prepped because in a time of crisis,
people forget these things.
Yes, they can always be tradable things, or you can really bless somebody with that. So anyway, I had the woman's tote and it was very helpful. And it had all kinds of, things in there. I had soap and shampoo and I don't know. I don't really shampoo my hair anymore, but
I've converted her.
I've come a long way. I probably prepped makeup and all kinds of things back in the day, way back when. I don't prep any of that stuff anymore. But a small woman's tote would behoove you to have on hand.
That was on my list of stuff to go get today in the supplies, on the supply run.
Yeah, definitely.
I got it wrong. I got tampons instead of pads. I dropped the ball on that. My bad. I'm like looking, there was hundreds of people in the store. Hundreds of people in the store today because there's no grocery stores are open except for this one. This is like the one grocery store that's open and it's cash only, right? Don't overlook this whatsoever, you guys. No fuel, no cash immediately. No cell service, no internet, no digital banking. All that's gone. It's cash is king. Cash is king. Barterables it's not really barterables unless you already have bartering people. Do you get what I'm saying? If they're not bartering people to begin with, cash is all that's running the show out there, And so it's like cash is absolutely everything, like absolutely everything.
Which is so interesting because in our modern day, they really are trying to push a cashless system. You notice that when you go to the grocery store, there's like literally hardly any cashiers anymore. And they're like, oh, card only. If you want to go through the self-checkout, there's like one little cashier with a super long line for all those other people freaky people that have cash on hand.
Do the hard stuff. Wait in line. Keep that person's job alive. You know what I'm saying? Like the great reset's inevitable. You guys, like if you're storing up money in bank accounts, digital bank accounts and stuff like that, they are going to wipe it out. Understand? Like if 2008, if you guys go back in time just a little bit, when they like literally are like, hey, yeah, sorry, we're going to take all the money that's in the bank. So your Wells Fargo account, your PayPal account, they're like, yeah, we're going to bail ourselves out with your money first. And don't worry, we'll get it back to you eventually. But like, they're going to pay people back at 20 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar at most, like publicly available information, you guys. They're going to come back with the digital currency. That's it. All that other stuff that you've stored away in imaginary ones and zeros is not reality. You know, like we encouraged some of our friends back then, the people that actually had IRAs and 401ks and all the rest of that. We're like, you guys should strongly consider moving that into physical assets, things you can physically take with you or convert into that. So
silver and gold.
a lot of them did. A lot of them converted it to silver and gold and weapons and firearms. And we are like a tertiary of gear people that were like, listen, you should have your absolute everyday on your person stuff as the best quality that you can. And then your kit of your get home bag, and then your kit of your 72-hour bag, your bug out bag, right? And then like each of these things maxed out to the best quality that you can reasonably afford. Don't dump everything into one little thing. You know what I'm saying? But like a practically good water bottle is worth its weight in gold. Show them yours, Chelsea. Hers has survived eons of time.
This is my baby. I should name it.
You name everything.
I name everything, and this doesn't have a name yet, but it's been around for a long time. It's older than my oldest daughter. Look at the bottom. Look how dented it is. It is weathered. It has been with me for a very long time. It has been on many journeys. I love this thing. Precious.
It's a 64-ounce insulated clean canteen.
And it has this
We made
awesome
that
handle that I
We-
made. Isn't this awesome? Nathan and I made it together. Actually, it didn't take very long. We did it out of paracord. And the paracord is like, I'm pretty convinced, permanently fused to the thing now. It will not move.
They are a had. They have become one. You know, but I did that damage to the bottom because we were at a beach in Florida and I had an umbrella. Understand, if you go down into the sun, bring an umbrella that you can impale into the sand.
My other favorite thing about this water bottle is the little cap ends up being a little cup to give Little's water. Jubilee still comes up to me and goes, Mom, can you get me a cap of water? I give her caps of water, and it's perfect for the little babies.
The twins drink out of it all the time now.
The time.
It's generational. This is like a generational inheritance.
I love this thing.
I lost mine in Colorado on that recon run when they were like, yeah, let's go to the bunker, baby. Let's do it.
Can we take a pause?
Yeah.
Sweating profusely.
She's getting hot in the studio lights.
It's all steamed up there.
She's getting worked up talking about that light and that beautiful, incredible bottle.
Oh my goodness.
It's been crazy.
I've been having heart palpitations
them the real side of
for days. And I think it's because of stress. And I think just because of like the no power. And then we're trying to prep for the Feast of Atonement. And then we're fasting and wearing sackcloth while we're trying to
sleep on the floor.
Yeah, and sleep on the floor while we're trying to deal with no power and just the mental. Oh my gosh, yeah, and just the full hurricane is around us. It's deluging outside, and it's just been quite stressful. And I think honestly, until today, the sun came out today. The sun will come out tomorrow. Oh, I was so grateful. It came out today. I was like, oh, the sun.
We had 2 hours of sunlight in 5 days.
It's gonna be okay. The rain stopped. It's gonna be okay. Even if it just stops for a little bit, it still just relents a little bit.
It's raining now.
But yeah, I feel like I'm still coming down off like just a huge adrenaline dump and like also just stress, but like also just trying to manage the stress and not like make our children feel like we're stressed and not make them feel worried or stressed, but also trying to still just deal with and manage the situation at hand. And it has been so much. Thank you all for your prayers, and for those of you who have reached out and are like, Reynolds, we're worried about you, we're watching the news, and like, are y'all out there? Yes, we are, and we have been without power since 2 a.m. on Friday, and still don't have power, and honestly don't know when the power is going to come back on. So we're just kind of hunkering in for the long haul here, because who knows? I mean, it could come back on tomorrow. It could be weeks. It could be weeks or more. I have no idea.
And
that's a lot to handle.
and that's a lot of people aren't mentally prepared for the long haul. And this isn't like we listen.
Because they keep telling everyone, oh, I think the power is going to come back on. You know, they should have it up in no time. 2 to 3 days. That's the nice number they like to
See, listen, that's
To keep you
psychological
calm.
operations to keep. Yeah, that's exactly right. They'll put out this kind of number. It'll be a couple days at the most, 2 to 3 days, like any day now. This is stuff that's literally designed to be about as far as most people's attention span and planning span is extended about 2 to 3 days. That's the most people live in the kind of mental rat race of about a couple days at a time. So that tends to be how they IV drip them hope, and like that's how they've kept, and it's also kept compliance. So they don't totally freak out, right? They got to keep the rats doing their job on the wheels as long as they can to keep society looking normalized, right? They're silencing so much of the information about actually what's going on out in Buncombe County and Haywood County and Asheville. And like, it is completely different. There are checkpoints, there are curfews, there are roving gangs of people who are going around and stealing people's stuff and killing people over their things. And there's massive amounts of crime breaking out that are unreported because nobody has means of getting communications out, and predators crank on the like, easy hunting. Now's a great time to go ahead and settle some debts. Like that mentality shifts on for a lot of people because nobody's coming to help them. You know what I'm saying? Like when the entire area of Black Mountain and Swannanoa valleys are like underwater, some people look at that as easiest time to go opportunistically devour stuff. And so that's what happens. But that stuff doesn't get reported, and nor will they report it even after the fact, you guys, because then it's all about the press management. And then it's all about trying to manage the after effect of like how good it looks or how good we did, so the guys can keep their jobs or stay in office and all the other politicking garbage that happens. But real world firsthand encounters and experiences is there's riots happening and people are stabbing each other at Walmarts trying to get water and get Gatorade and get supplies,
I mean,
panicking.
This is a lot of people without power.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
A lot of people without power. And many are not. Like that woman at the gas station said she's running into walls because she can't even see in her apartment because she doesn't have any light. And she's probably just using her cell phone, and then drains her cell phone battery and all these things, people are just not prepared. And you know what? Like, not just people, like even we, as prepared as we like to think that we try to be, like I still feel like we failed in a lot of ways. And Yah has been so merciful in providing us what we need, even amidst our just procrastination, I guess, in trying to get things done. Like, I've been feeling this need to get this medical bag and this one for my car and this one for my home done. And then I've been feeling a pressing need to get more formula and more diapers. And it's really expensive. And so we just haven't yet. We just haven't had that extra to really like throw at that, to like store up, and I'm sure that's a lot of you guys too. But like, it's just like, you just like, you're doing fine just getting by, but like, you don't have tons of extra. You don't have that extra surplus to just like throw at whatever to like store up for a rainy day, or a hurricane. Rainy days that blow in. But I think that's been a big part of it too, is just, that financial hurdle of not being able to actually prep up some of the things that we've felt burdened. Like, okay, we are living, month to month on the formula and month to month on the diapers. And sometimes the diapers don't even get here in time. And that's without a crisis, and that's hard. And I mean, yes, we're ordering, special formula for our babies, from the UK. And then we're ordering bamboo diapers because we just like them the best and feel like they work really well for our babies, and they're non-toxic and they're biodegradable and all these things. But anyway, but so we like certain products, but I feel like a lot of things in this world nowadays, you have to order everything online, because no stores carry anything. No stores actually carry a surplus of goods in their stores. And that's another reason why it is important to store up some things, essentials that you or your family need and may need in a crisis, because it's not going to be easy to get them when you are in need, especially during an emergency or a disaster. So
those were those hard lessons. I had a super, like, my biggest fails was the lantern, because I am like a fanatic about my Nightcore headlamps and pocket lights, all that stuff. You guys show them that one first. But listen, I have had, it's everyone's favorite. Listen, I had this one since 2012, 2013. Like, this light, I don't even know if they make it anymore. What is this? They're HC90. Listen, anything we talk about, preparations, products, anything, people, we have no affiliations. I don't merchandise anything. There's no monetization on my channels. None of my content is merchandise. I say in the bottom of every one of the descriptions of my videos, like, you can use any of my content. Feel free, have at it, you guys. Like, go for it, like anything. There's no kickbacks for anything. I am an advocate about something because, like, I battle tested it. This thing has been with me. Now I had to replace the headband itself. Nightcorestore.com is where I like get a bunch of this stuff. This is the HC90. You may be able to see that. Let's see if we can focus on that instead of my face. Oh, HC90. Anyways, we love this light because it's simple. My wife, I love her so much. She's incredibly capable of many things, but user interface of flashlights is totally her weak zone. It's soggy, honey. It's super soggy.
I'm so bad. I sit there and I'm like, Nathan's like, just click once. And I'm like, click, 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 click. There's a couple different buttons. I can't turn it off.
Like, it's a long press. It's a long press, honey. More than 1 second. Long press. Just a long press of the left user interface menu selection option.
Frustrated child in tears, or your wife.
And she's in the dark up there, you guys, and she's strobing out the house. She's all like, she's on the like full like, I'm like, honey, slide right. She could do this one. This one's easy. You know what I got this one? Because it's got it's called an infinity bar. Okay. I'm a psycho about flashlights and knives for a reason. Okay. I got handed guns that were intentionally designed to not work and then told to go hunt that guy with that gun. So I stopped using guns and I started just knives. Like, I'm going to tell you for what it's worth, you guys. There's amazing efficacy, and I'm still a good fan of firearms and training and shooting and all the rest of that, and I'm a big advocate for it. But understand something's with redundancies. A blade is super critical. Way low on most people's lists, and I totally get it. But the type of killing that I did and was proficient in was quiet killing. Flashlights are a game changer for all things. Like that woman at the gas station, she had wounds on her shin, bandages, because she was cracking her shins open in the dark, stumbling into stuff because she didn't have a standalone flashlight. Now we've had some struggles because user interface. That's just like how easy it is to navigate a flashlight. Like this flashlight, it's called tail cap. You hear that? Click on, click off. Super easy. It's on the butt. It's on the bottom here. See how this is like their MH12 Pro.
Can I show him this one?
Show him this one. You can do this one. It has the infinity bar.
Ready?
It'll go as a gradient of light. Okay. As she goes through it.
Going back down. Ready? Gonna go over to red light. Nope. Gonna go over to red light, and then green, and then blue, and then you can back over to bright. So you can hold on. You can go to red. You're on red most of the time, and then you're like, oh, I can't see if the baby has poop. Back to white light.
I have a video about that where I lost my mind. Anyways, I got this to explore tunnels and caves out in Colorado when I was like a wilderness mentor. That's when I got this one. And it has a replaceable battery, 18650. They're like the standard batteries that are in most people's vape guns. The guys, you know what I'm saying? There's shooting it straight to the dome. These batteries are amazing. They're fantastic. But let me show you. I don't know that they make these. If they do, I highly recommend them. They're my favorite. They've been around forever. And it's a tank. It survived me as long as she survived me. It's an impressive thing. But this is my new alternative that I've been battle testing out. Streamlight.
This is his new one he got me. And
I've been on a quest. I've got her so many headlamps, you guys. They're just everywhere.
No.
I've got her so many different headlamps trying to be like, honey, it's just this one. I'm like, honey, you just click it twice, you get to red light. But if you click the other one, oh, it's strobe, So I've abandoned this one.
This one's pretty easy. It just goes click on and then clicks through the nope, still wrong. Oh, hold. Click and hold, and it goes through the different gradients, and then you can rotate it, and there you go, red light. Anyway, I'm still getting used to this one, clearly.
Show them the other light.
And sometimes when I'm in the dark, I push these parts, the little joint that rotates it forward or back. I push these trying to find the button. A little special.
Show them the other things it does. Keep showing them.
What else does it do?
So keep going on those lights. Keep rotating through the cycle.
Okay. Well,
okay.
And then
white.
And then this is
blue for tracking blood.
Blue.
You're welcome.
And
you can't see that one.
Infrared. Fancy.
Those of you guys that have baby cameras and stuff like that, and you're trying to like spy on your children at night, the little infrared will glow, make light up the night. Those of you guys that your PVS 14s and your night visions works beautifully, right? Wait, go back to that. I got to tell them about this one. This is the Sidewinder. Okay, this one, I got to tell them about this. You didn't finish the whole story here. This is Streamlight. Streamlight makes this. It's called their Sidewinder. This is their Sidewinder too. These were made, listen, Streamlight makes stuff for soldiers. Like everything I buy has to be like warrior level, insane. Like the guy that's going to go spelunking. Anything that ever touches my body better be waterproof or it will not survive me. Because I had to go out in a hurricane, like straight up. I had to go out in a hurricane because we had trees come down, blocking our driveway, blocking the road. So I had to be the neighbor guy, and I'm like, I had a chainsaw, but I have no idea how to actually use it at all. I'm just going to be real transparent. I have no stinking idea how to use the chainsaw. And so I just did this, grab that guy. I don't know how to use this chainsaw. It's old. I found it on the property when we moved in here. And I got all the bar oil and the chain oil and all that stuff. But I was like, I don't know how to do it. I'm just going to use this because I'm in a hurry. So I use my little silky saw. I use this all the time. I use this in my machete all the time. So I default to that. And when you're in these crisis moments, you guys, you'll default to what you're comfortable with, like as a baseline. And I'm way more comfortable with that. I can be quiet with that and I can work. But man, do I need to realize I got to learn how to use the chainsaw. But anyways, this is the Sidewinder Compact 2. So you can get the Sidewinder Compact 1. But the reason she likes this, listen, the reason she likes this is because of this user interface. Okay, you pull up on this tab and rotate the selector to get to your various different settings, and you can feel it. It's like a positive lock of rotation, and it's
true. If it's dark, you can feel it.
It's called indexing.
And, yeah, you can feel around and figure out your way through it.
So she likes that because it's got easy user interface, something she can index. I'm just going to tell you, my wife is a practical testing ground for me to try out all kinds of stuff for the normies. She's great for that. Show them your other. This was her diehard True Faithful for a lot of years.
This one's pretty good. You turn it on and then it's got red light. Easy. Back to white. Back to red. It's just not super, super bright, but it'll get the job done. And it's lightweight and it doesn't overheat. So sometimes I get a headache when I wear these things, and Nathan's always like, "You have a headlamp. Why are you holding it in your hand? Free up your hands. Put it on your head. Put it on your head." And I'm like, "Honey, this gives me a headache." So I'm always like holding it, and he's like, "Just put it on your head." Ah! Anyway, I know I frustrate him, and
I frustrate the heck out of her. I'm a monster to live with. Believe me, she's real sweet. I'm a monster a lot of times.
Hey,
I'm very grumpy.
I'm carrying a knife now.
I finally got her. Where is it? Show me.
Well,
knife check.
not right now.
You totally owe me a treasure.
I'm in my night-nights.
I literally pulled her out of bed for this. I'm like, I'm hang out.
I'm in my night-nights. This doesn't count.
I'm in my night-nights. How many blades do you think I have on me? I got a gun on me. Get over it. Nehemiah slept with his clothes on and a sword girded about himself. Believe me, we're in battle condition. Bright orange right now. You know what I'm saying? Game on, son.
Still coming down.
It's not over. It's only snapping out of craziness out there.
This is adorable. My girls love this. This is a lantern, the Nightcore lantern. It even has a little hook. It's adorable.
LA30.
We've had these things forever. They're amazing in camping tents. You can tie them up. They're great for camping. Little children can just hold them. And
it goes red.
And hold on. It goes through the. Hold on. It goes through the. Oh no. See.
Every time she's got the We've had this thing for like 9 years.
Every time. Oh, there goes red. I knew I'd figure it out eventually. Just enough clicks and enough holds and pauses.
I memorize these things like my life depends on it instantly.
So bad.
Like I get a new flashlight and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to try all the user interfaces things and I'm going to encode it into the depths of my soul so I can do it upside down underwater when I'm bleeding, And she's like, I'm like, just memorize it. And she's like, I'll go make you bread. I'm like, deal. I love you. I'll get you the right flashlights. This one is great. It can clip onto a helmet. I don't have a bump helmet or a proper helmet right now, but this one will clip onto that and it'll clip onto your belt also. Though I haven't worn it like that. It's got a single band, so it's simple because I realize she gets annoyed with these triple band things. She gets annoyed with them. And so she doesn't use them properly. She gets all bothered by it. So single band stuff I found her to actually use, so lightweight stuff. This Nightcore headlamp, this one they came out with, they abandoned these. That's so sad. This was their best one they ever made. which was, what is it? The U35. Hold on. They abandoned this one and they started making all these other ones, and they stupid. NU25. I have a video called Light Up the Night. It's in terrible quality. It was when I was first ever doing videos. Just bear with me. Way of the Blade time. It's called Light Up the Night. But it was all about these flashlights. I was like, these things are amazing. I thought the world was going to end back when they were like slamming down roadways in Covey. You know what I'm saying? They're like, it's going to be. And I was like, game on, son. I'm going to put out videos, tell people how to survive the end of the world. See, there's that redundancy that's just hardwired into me. I'm like, honey, we got to tell them everything they need to know to survive.
You know what? Okay, so we've talked about lighting. Well, and this is for like if the grid goes down, right? Like
the grid is down for us right now.
Like right now. Okay.
Starlink is working. I'm just going to tell you that for what it's worth. The only reason we have any ability to even talk to you guys is because we lost all that power, because we moved so rural. Like we had internet that was through the phone line, which was junk. And I was like, this is unacceptable. I was like trying to do interviews, and it was all like, and I was like, no, unacceptable. So Starlink, you know what I'm saying? Like Starlink right now is the only communication system that's basically working up here. Line of sight communications, if you got your little bow fangs and your little radios and that kind of stuff. Ham radio guys, you guys are killing it. I'm trying to upgrade my life, and I'm trying to take some lessons from some guys that know better than me. But like, there's a lot of things on the list, and that in the baby formula and the diapers, those are in the hierarchy of needs. You know, a ham radio would be amazing. Different antennas cut to different lengths. I've got a lot to learn, but out here, Starlink and anywhere, you know, this is why in the middle of war zones, you guys, you can take an e-bike. Let me just tell you some little operator lessons from the field right now. An e-bike, off-roading mountain bike with a major battery bank and a Starlink setup in your backpack allows you to go anywhere and set up, broadcast, upload, and then relocate all pretty quietly. So that's an unbelievable set of skills that most people have never had access to in many, many, many generations. So something to consider. But like right now, guys that are getting around and like doing what they got to do on their rounds with their teams, that's how they're operating. And it's very effective. It's very effective. Guys that are on dirt bikes and other stuff, that's an option. But we just had one of our friends break their arm and got really injured on his motorcycle. You know, like there's dangers of doing that method, but they were able to get around all these down trees. I had to drive over power lines in my minivan, you know, because I'm like, on the list was my truck. You know, I was like, I want a 1996 Ford 7.3 turbo diesel with stacks in the back so that I didn't suck up water, you know, with a downspout vent air intake on the front, you know, like King crew cab. It was like a very specific truck, and I was hunting it. And it was like, wait and see, you know, but like this was one of those times it would have been great to have that truck, you know, like guys that were out and about, they had trucks. I hit it with a minivan, son. Praise yeah, but I waited till the coast was clear enough that I could. But like there's a lot of very valuable lessons about communications and how quick people deteriorated because they lost their ability to get their addiction fix every day. The reason that lady went into criminalistic mindset was because her drug was taken away from her, and her drug was screen time, was this dopamine fix that she gets from being on her phone every day and being connected to the community, the world abroad. That disappeared, and all that drug, that kickback that she used to get when she'd stare at her screen. I like, listen, y'all, like the scoliosis effect is very potent. It's very potent. You can sit there and watch your videos in your audio, even if you're an audio, like it gets addicting. And when you withdraw from it, you're going to become like an addict who's fiending and who's trying to get their fix back, and they get stuck on that train of thought. Like, how do I get my phone to work again? Instead of understanding that the hierarchy of needs should shift away from that and shift towards the things that people aren't thinking about yet. You know, like that's why, like when she sends me on a run to go get feminine hygiene products, go get go get pads, you know, go get pads and peanut butter. She's like, fundamental. Make a list. Write it down, you know. She made a nice list for me, and I left it in the car. I forgot it in the car, you know. But things that nobody was even touching right now, like people propane, pads, and peanut butter. That's not a joke.
The peas.
The 3 Ps?
Yeah, propane, pads, and peanut butter.
Seriously, those were the major things I needed today. Like the generator, the generator I got like down before all this happened in the summer was a dual fuel quiet generator, because we had that quiet diesel generator. I felt like a stinking boss every time I'd push button to start it from my dash. I'd be like, yes, turn on the thunder. But I was like, yes, I can barely even hear you inside my house. I love that. Now, I love that. It's a friendly, neighborly thing to be that guy. It's not a friendly, neighborly thing to be the...
you can afford, though, you do that.
Do that hard, son. Do that hard. But like when that generator has to take on a load, you know, and it comes up in RPMs, like it's noticeable, you know, like I'm just trying to teach you something. Like I've taught my family diligent noise discipline, light discipline. You guys, my children are like, my daughter got me tonight because I came in, dad came in hot tonight. I came in hot, fully loaded, you know, and I came inside and I'm like, command voice, Nathan. And she's like, Dad, light discipline. Your headlamp's in my eyes. And I'm like, I love you so much, my daughter. Yes, it's paying off. But listen, you got to teach each other not to shine your light in each other's faces, you know? So you're not like, hi, I can't see anything you're saying. I'm creating a photonic barrier so I can defeat you with my tiny, quiet tools. Anyways,
The
generators were clutch. Generator was a clutch. Now,
and we had a friend who said, run it off propane if you can.
Oh, mechanic. Shout out to you, stinking mighty man from the Northwest.
Yeah, run it off
huge.
propane.
He said, okay, I'm not a mechanic whatsoever. I am like dirtbag, knuckle dragging idiot with mechanical stuff. I'm a stinking nebulous of a man when it comes to that. It's just soft. I have a freak out, son. It's bad. It's bad. It's a terrible paralysis analysis effect. But he said to me, run it off propane as much as possible because the maintenance long term is way less. You know, like when you run it off fuel, diesel or gasoline, like the exhaust, right? I don't know, the stuff that happens and takes place. I could slow down and I'm sure comprehend it effectively and communicate it. It causes more wear and tear on the engine and it clogs stuff more readily. It puts off dirtier stuff, right? Combustibles. It's not as clean. Therefore, you have to maintain it and service it more readily, which to me sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen. And I'm like, oh, great, service it. Like stab myself with a sharp eye. I hate that stuff, but I got to do it occasionally. Anyway, so instead, I got this generator that was a quiet generator. I got I don't know, second to the top one I could get at Harbor Freight at the time. I think it was like $800 or $900. They had a sale. I punched that ticket, son. You know, I was like, I had cash in hand, son. Bird in the hand, son. Let's do this thing. I got that. And then I reached out to the people that know better. I have a cadre of people, hallelujah, for the collective intelligence known as the internet, and a wonderful group of people. I've been collecting the listen, we may be poor in financial wealth, but we are rich in the non-material asset of relationships. Hallelujah. My wife and I can pick up the phone and call anybody in any kind of field and find out the best expertise on any given subject. Anything. Like, that's an incredibly valuable thing. And we thank you for all of you that are out there and are ready and eager to help the Reynolds at any given time. You guys are stinging champions. I got people working on propane adapters and fill stuff for me right now. And I'm like, thank you. Because I had a darn near panic attack trying to think about all these fittings that I got to do to hook up to the big tank, you know? I was stressed this morning and it was rubbing off on her. It's bad.
Well, we burned
because we burned through our propane that we had. You know, I finally got the propane out. I got the propane tank set up, or I got the, okay.
Well, and why
let me go back.
Why do we have propane? Or why do we have a generator? What do we need to power?
Our water pump, first and foremost. We cannot get water up where we are unless we have a water pump, unless we want to go bucket style, which is always an option. Like, we live somewhere where there's primary water. Priority number one. So that means that even as crappy as it may be of a day, we can still get water. If we can still get water, we can flush our toilets. You know, like, that's a big thing people don't think about is your trash.
Your dishes.
Listen, your trash and your toilets back up real bad. You want to talk about the nightmare of what stench is coming out of these cities when I drive around out there? It's just heaps of trash everywhere because the trash service is shut off. And that's one of those things that people aren't even thinking about is how much just having trash in your area reeks. And then you get disease, and then you get animals and flies and larvae. And this is how pestilence breaks out in areas. And you guys are like, why does leishmaniasis a thing? You know, like, I learned about leishmaniasis in Afghanistan, and I was like, what are all these holes on people's faces? You know, people had all of these holes and sores and stuff on faces, and they're like, it's leishmaniasis. And I was like, what the heck is leishmaniasis? And they're like, oh, it comes from living around debris and rubble and ruin. And you're like, oh, so that's what we did to people over here. You know, we took a country that had eradicated their poppy fields, eradicated heroin, like none, zero. In 2001, there was no heroin coming out of Afghanistan, eradicated under the Taliban. I know you guys are like, yeah, no, bad guys, Al-Qaeda. Watch Richard Groves, The Underground History of America, change your life forever. Anyways, when we got done there in Afghanistan, we were exporting 1,000 tons of heroin out of Afghanistan on an annual basis. Okay. The second, that was more than the entire rest of the world combined. 50 tons was all that was coming out of Mexico, just for instance. You know, that's why everybody died and got completely addicted to all the drugs. I'm going to get lost in the weeds. Anyways, I'm going to rant forever. Stinging history, son. They're going to rinse and repeat. Anyways, but when I was over there, lots of rubble from, blowing up everyone's houses and infrastructure, like, tends to happen when there's softening up of targets. But I saw this leishmaniasis, and it left a vivid impression on me because you're looking at a lot of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old children. And you realize how beautiful people are everywhere in the world. And it's not just isolated to your Americanized people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you realize there's these beautiful children that are still just trying to be children, just being children. And yet they got these horrific marring scars all over their faces. And you begin to ask around, and it's from this horrible thing that happens by living around ruin, living in ruin. And that's just like one of those little caveats that adds on, like, study what happened in Hurricane Katrina, study what happens in the United States when this stuff gets taken away. And that was before everybody had the cell phones. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, the level of addiction people have to their closet addictions is so much higher now than it was then. And so when these catastrophes begin to happen and you start to erode the societal standards of what people have become accustomed to, you start to see the gloves come off of people real fast. Like my mindset had been, normally you got about 36 hours before people go into that full critical criminal mindset. But this gal was within 12 hours. Her and her friends had gathered together a gang of people in their apartment to go start breaking and strong arm robbery in their apartment complex and in the neighborhood and the houses around them within 12 hours. And I was sitting there and I'm like talking to the girl in person. She's still alive, clearly didn't get shot. Tried to give her an educated lesson on, like, Southerners, like, I live in an area where lots of people have firearms for a reason. I like my neighbors who have the hats that say Second Amendment. This house is defended by the Second Amendment. I'm like, I like you as my neighbor, son. I like you a lot. Good people.
Or those purple fence people. Watch out for those.
About that. They're not gonna, a lot of people miss that. Don't forget, they're international.
Oh, sorry. Watch out for those purple fence people.
Tell them what that is.
I don't even know. I just know purple fence means they're going to shoot you if you come over onto their property.
Let me give you guys just an illustrious understanding of American subculture here. In certain states in our country, they have a law which states that basically, there's something called castle doctrine, whereas an individual is entitled to the right of self-defense of his or her own personal property, and it has the right to defend that, including with lethal force, like a firearm. Okay. Other states have something that is different than that, where you have to basically a retreat law, where you have to do your utmost to try to retreat and escape from the situation before you are allowed or legally allowed to use deadly force. This is highly complicated stuff in lawfare. And it's really important for you to know this stuff if you are a carrying citizen, somebody who's going to carry a firearm, and understand the mindset of all the legal ramifications of everything that happens afterwards, including in crisis like this. Because as much as some of these people think they're getting away with crimes right now, there's a long arm of investigative powers, especially with some of these people who they may not have any clue who their daddy is. You know what I'm saying? But in some of those states that do have castle doctrine, one of the other laws that is often put forth, like in Texas, we were introduced to this quite powerfully in Texas, because I'm a wandering guy. I like to wander. I've been known to put on the night watch, right? And go into the darkness and just start exploring.
I just like to explore and look for treasures and animals and critters and plants and forage. And he does. He likes to go on little walks, little nature walks, nature night.
In the depths of darkness. It's less naturey. It is. Well, but it's fun. Either way, I like to know where I can walk. But out in Texas, we encountered these purple fence posts everywhere, right? On the gates of people's properties. Like purple gates.
Why? It's a message. It's a hidden coded message of some kind. I wonder what it means.
We pay attention to those because we lived in occult neighborhoods where a bunch of prostitution, child prostitution, and pedophilia was going on everywhere. And you're like, coded messages were done with the lights. Okay. They would exchange the regular light bulbs in their porch lights or on the edges of their roadways with red ones or with green ones or with purple ones or with blue ones. And these were ways that they communicated to the underworld. Just saying. So we pay attention to stuff like that. Even tonight, I noticed on my drive home that there were businesses and there were houses that had red lights that have never had a different colored light on ever. So to me, these are highly notable, and they go in my little waterproof journal. Just start to annotate things, taking notes. But down there in Texas, we learned the serious level of the purple fence law, which is basically they have given informed consent. If you step onto their property, they have legally informed you that that is a no trespassing property. By painting it purple, they have informed you that it is a no trespassing property. No hunting, no fishing, no trapping, no poaching, no trespassing. You come on here, they're legally entitled to shoot you dead. Okay. And then they are completely on the legal ground side of it, clean. So when you live in certain areas and you start seeing purple tape up on trees, or you start seeing just a streak of purple on a fence post, brosif, understand something. You could end up like Joseph's bones being carried to the promised land style real fast. So make good friends with that guy. That's how I register it as. Like, be super friendly and amiable with that man, but also be very respectful about going up his gates. Like, they can shoot you dead. This is the same area where I had the guys on the property, the wranglers, teach me about just digging holes preemptively. They'd rent an excavator and just dig lots of deep holes and have buckets of lye just ready to dispose of it. They shot, they shoveled, and they shut up. That was their culture out there. It's a different world down there on the south of the border style. It changes you forever. Like when you meet these guys, like it makes a lasting impression. Anyways, so like I don't go exploring the same way and wild vapidly out there as I once did, but that's an important thing you guys should know if you're not aware of that culture. But there's a lot of stuff out there that's going on, and some of these people in like the Asheville area, what's creating is this like habitat of chaos as people are going through those what are called the hierarchy of needs, and they're realizing that like it's not going to get better suddenly, and some of them are getting force fed into certain regions. But you have every city is designed to kind of harbor the worst classes of society that have been kind of cultivated, the criminality side of it, into certain pockets. Well, in Asheville, it has infected the entirety of the city in its own way because they decriminalized a lot of these things. And it has been a smorgasbord of witchcraft and occultism and open drug use. And it's been horrific already for a long time. And so now
everywhere. And
like I was down in the tunnels in Asheville not long ago, going down into these tunnels that had beds and chains and all kinds of horrific stuff going on down in the tunnels there in Asheville, because I'm like, that whole area was underwater and had water 20 feet over it, over the road and over where that tunnel system was. So anybody that's caught up in that system is now fleeing in a higher ground, and they're mixing in with normies who don't know how to be predatory, who don't know how to be opportunistic hunters. And it creates these roving gangs that start to assemble and go out and raid into areas. And then they start to go out into the suburbs, the surrounding areas, and start depleting resources. And it works this way really fast. And then they start shutting down information so nobody can get that out. But it makes you a lot more cautious about where you choose to live. But these things should be on the back of your mind. I learned that hard lesson about not having power, not having communication, and it was painful. Other people are going to learn other ones. We should have had better lanterns and candles. That would have been nice, so that it wasn't just headlamp life.
But having the generator has been a huge blessing because we've been able to have our water pump on. And like he said, having running water has been such a blessing. We've been able to plug in our Starlink internet. Internet's working now. Well, that's cool because we can make Wi-Fi calls, which that's amazing to have communications when nobody else has cell service. I mean, that's a big deal. And then also to be able to just cook food. You guys, like you got to think about these things. I mean, yes, you can deplete your pantry of all of your dried goods and stuff like that, but like you got to be able to bake some bread. I mean, you could just chew on grain if push came
soft white wheat is the best one for that.
Push came to shove.
Spelt too.
But it'd be great if you could grind your grain and hey, mad props to all you who do have that old red homesteading mill. I know we kind of made fun of it, not made fun of it, but we kind of just joked about how it's a workout, because it is. Anyone who owns those mills, it is a serious workout to mill your flour, but you know what? You can stink and mill it without power. So mad props.
Wonder Mill makes a great one. We had someone give us that not long ago.
Just blessed us with that.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, friends.
We haven't used it.
But just being able to have ways of preparing food, ways of making food, ways of preparing food and ways of cooking food, different ways of cooking food depending on what you have available and the power that you have available. Or if you don't have power, something we love is this.
This is the stuff that made it in the one tote. We had one tote, I told you, that we took on the road with our preps.
This guy is, we used to take him backpacking, the Jetboil. And this is an amazing little camp stove, cook stove. It's just literally one little cup,
Titanium pot.
one cup, one pot, okay? And you just hook it into your stove. There's the stove.
That's the actual.
And the stove, yeah, the stove unscrews from this. Now this is a bigger bottom base, but it comes with smaller canisters. So your base of your stove and your canister can fit all inside the cup. It neatly stacks in there and fits in there. And so it's super sleek and can fit in a backpack super easily. That's why we loved it. But this thing, I mean, you can get it going and cranking and have boiling water. Like, it is so slick. Like, here, you just do it. It's so slick. Watch this. Oh. Check that out.
This is one of those things that we have taken with us everywhere, because you can get from like the smaller cylinders, it'll boil this water in 40 seconds to a minute generally. It's incredibly efficient. All right. And like we took our prepping mindset years ago into this phrase of like, listen, if I got $3,000 to put into prepping, you know, we put the vast majority of it into physically what we could carry on our person. You know, like we got what was called a single walled tent. So it was the stuff that they used to climb up Everest and K2. I looked at like, what do those guys have? Because listen, we used to live around a land of 14,000 foot mountains. Yeah. And in order for me to get back to my bug out location, you know, I had like a 190-mile hike and I had to cross the Continental Divide twice. I was like, son of a gun, we got to get there. So like I understood I could have to take a full snow load. I could have to take, 60, 80 mile an hour winds. And I needed something that I could set up when I was exhausted, I was hungry, I was wet, and I was miserable. That was easy to pop up, not stupid, not built to make me angry. All the stupid junk that they sell at the store all the time. Like, I wanted something that was consistently reliable. So I got these single wall. There you go. He's going to boil over.
No,
he's going to boil.
Boiling.
So he'll boil over. And he will boil.
Quick that was.
Oh, man, I thought something popped. It's my flashlight. Get your hands away from containers that do that.
Look how quick that was. That is amazing. So now you have hot water. You can pour. We used to do a lot of like freeze dried food when we would be camping. You just pour your freeze dried meal in there, stir, let it sit for a couple minutes. Hot meal. Like having a hot meal in your belly when you're cold and you're exhausted after hiking 5, 7 miles, like 8 miles, whatever, with a huge pack on your back. There's nothing better. And then we would make little hot coffees or hot tea, like even pine needle tea, like just throwing some pine needles in there. Like, oh, it was so good. There's nothing more soothing than like a hot meal or a hot beverage. So nice.
We would make coffee in this thing a lot.
Yeah,
and we've been using it to have to make hot water for our baby bottles and stuff like that, because the tea kettle cranking online is going to pull a lot of power from my generator, makes it loud.
And I don't remember how many you get with one of these big canisters, but like turning this on and boiling it, like you would get like probably, I think 30 times of boil, or maybe more, maybe it was more than that on the little canisters. Like that was pretty decent. Like, 30 times of boiling an entire cup, like with it full. So,
now, one thing, let me just tell you though, the weakness of this has boiling water. These are isobutane. These are a special mixture. They're not propane. They will not just take one of your propane canisters. So that's the weakness of this thing. If I could take this same system and run those little 1 pound propane bottles, that would be the dream.
Maybe they have one.
Because, and maybe, hey, if you guys know of like, what's your favorite gear or stuff you would recommend, or things like hard learned lessons you guys have found on this journey, please share and comment below, or just send us an email at snatchedfromtheflames@protonmail.com, because we're rookies in many areas and we are experts in some, but we have moderate amounts of experience in a variety of things. But
camping, this thing was blessed.
Well, and just during this crisis,
yeah,
it's been great. We've cranked this thing out and we've used it a whole bunch. You want to put that over there so I don't melt my hand? But listen, I like the whole propane thing got us realizing something really fast, because I had a big tank, like a big normal house size propane tank. And my plan was I'm going to run the generator off of that tank. Well, that requires specialty adapters. Okay. It requires pressure regulators, and it requires a bunch of very specific things to be done to your line in order to do that. I did not take the time and get that across the finish line and ever do that. My biggest mistake and failure on preparation side of the equation for me and my family. The secondary option could have been finding a refill canister system, so that there's a way you can fill up your 20-pound tanks, like the stuff you get at your propane cooking and your gas stoves. They're like 20-pound tanks or whatever. If I could refill those, I could keep my generator going, because my generator is fed off of those. That's kind of what it's built to be, run off of those bottles that everybody has. So that standardized fitting is what comes off of my generator. So I only had a couple of those bottles on hand. And when this thing started going down, I major failed in not going and getting a bunch more of those canisters. And so
well, it was a hurricane. It's because it was deluging rain.
No, there's no excuses. I am without excuse. I totally take full
truck.
accountability.
We don't have a truck. It's not like you could go out and like.
I
we
know,
didn't
but if
what
I
we
should have,
were
but I
facing.
knew 2 days before the storm was coming. I had an advance warning. I failed completely. I'm just going to own it. I own my mistakes. I did. But I should have been better prepared. And I also should have had the generator out and ready to go. But I did also have the other thing that most people maybe may not overlook, which is engine oil. These things got to have oil in order for them to function properly. So you need to know, hey, if you're going to get a generator, listen, your whole world's going to run around that generator. Your wife, your children, your family, your friends, your neighbors, all kinds of people will be coming to you if you're the guy with the generator. That will be one of the most valuable pieces of infrastructure that exists in a lot of people's world, because they are so conditioned to the electric life, and all of us are, but that one piece of equipment, make sure you have everything that you need so that you can keep that thing running. And so thankfully I had all of the rest of everything that I needed. I was able to pull it out. I had to cross 2 waterfalls that had spontaneously erupted on the property, and I had to cross multiple waterfalls to bring that thing over and get that thing hooked up and running. But I'll tell you what sweet relief it was when we had running water again, and when we were able to be like, oh,
we were able to bake bread and actually
prep day. It was like, for us, it was prep day before the Shabbat, and we had like a feast on the way.
And the Feast of Atonement, in which we break our fasts on the Feast of Atonement with a big feast. And so we were able to use the Instapot. We were able to use our little toaster oven. We were able to use our we have a propane kind of propane stove that you got me.
I got a grid. It's got a griddle top. It's got a griddle top and a flat top cooktop. So it's got both of those. I got her that for our outdoor kitchen that's just demolished. But we've been cooking off this stuff for a while as it is. We've been cooking out of this little toaster oven because of our
toaster oven is a champion. That little Oster toaster oven. It is a convection countertop toaster oven, but it can get up to 450 degrees, and you can bake sourdough bread in your Dutch oven. It fits a full size or not a full size. I guess it's a full size, normal size Dutch oven in there. And I've been baking bread in that thing forever. I mean, you can do everything in that. You can fit a full pizza in there. I mean, that thing is amazing. Such a little champion. We had it in the RV. We had that exact same one in the RV for 4.5 years when we lived mobily, and it was beautiful. It bakes bread beautifully in there. So anyway, praise Yah that we had that too, and we've been using that ever since we moved to this property, and we've been using that little guy, and it's been great. He's been going strong. So anyway, just being able to have the means to prepare your food, even if you can't afford a big generator, getting a little cook stove like this. Like, I could literally crack a few chicken eggs in here, and with a spatula, I have scrambled eggs. I could cook. We've cooked meat in this on the road. We literally used to keep this in our car. And when we were staying at an Airbnb one time, when we were traveling through Kansas to Colorado to visit our family, I remember the Airbnb didn't have hardly anything. They didn't have any means.
They're like, we gave you a microwave. I'm like, burn it with fire. It's only good for an EMP.
And we pulled the Jetboil out, and we had these little I don't know if they were beef sausages. I can't remember. We had some kind of little meat, and we chopped it up and put it in there, and we cooked it with the Jetboil. It was amazing. So even if you just have a tiny little guy like that, I mean, just something to be able to heat up water, heat up some food. That's a basic essential.
Makes your life way better. A headlamp.
Headlamps, candles, lanterns if you're fancy and you can teach us.
Bro, we're rookies. We're so bad on the lanterns. It would have been nice to offer some normal light instead of like the super intensity of these headlights everywhere.
Warm light, but just these are just the basics, and then water, if you don't have a spring on your property, and you have a well, have a way to power the pump for the well, or you fill up tons of jugs and you just have some extra jugs on your property that are always filled and ready to go.
Tell them how to flush the toilet.
Oh, we do 5-gallon buckets of water. So you go down to a creek, even if you have a creek nearby or whatever, or a well or whatever.
Water tank.
Yeah, you find a way and you do 5-gallon buckets and then you pour it in the back of the toilet, and that's how you can flush your toilet. You can also just poop in the woods. Nathan's a fan. And I was going to say, or if you live in the city and you're on city water, if like we knew a couple days ahead of time that this hurricane was coming, and we didn't know how bad it was going to be. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we did know this bad storm was potentially going to hit us, potentially going to come through. If you know that ahead of time, you could always just, if you had a bathtub, fill up a bathtub with some tap water, okay? Fill up totes with water. Have some extra water stored up somewhere in your house that if you go to turn on the sink and it doesn't work, you have a backup. So
seriously, I'll tell you I'm going to tell you my two most often overlooked prepper tools of Everness. 5-gallon buckets with lids. They are $5 and they are life-changing to have on hand. We have used 5-gallon buckets universally for more things than almost any other single tool that's in our life. 5-gallon buckets can be used for darn near anything.
Washing your laundry.
Seats. We sit on them a lot. We've sat
make
on
a composting toilet outside. You could, or an emergency toilet. What do? You just put a bag. You put a bag in it. Emergency toilet. There you go.
When we were in the RV, I'm just going to tell you straight up. I'm going to tell you all the ways I've pooped. It's good for you guys. Then you won't feel awkward when you're that guy. Some of you guys won't do this stuff because you're ashamed. Just kill the fear, man. Just stick and murder it, son. Kill it. Stab it over and over again with a dagger in the heart. Just viciously murder that thing. I'm just saying, okay, when we were in the RV, we had like one bad bedroom, a mono room in the bedroom, right? And then we had this tiny little sliding like accordion door just that would cross over to the other side. And then we had a little tiny bathroom and then a shower on the other side of the hallway, and we ripped the toilet out of that thing because black tanks are from the devil. Just going to tell you, straight from the devil, son. Get yourself a composting toilet. Save your life, save your family, save your marriage. Composting toilets. Epic. Super cheap. Do a simple one. Mine was stupid expensive and not necessary whatsoever. The peed overflowed many times. Many times. Pee everywhere, running on those unlevel floors into all the cracks and the crevices. So much pee. Poor flashlight use. Lots of lessons learned. She couldn't check the volume of the tank. There should have been a level indicator.
It was a tiny little window and it got really cloudy and you couldn't even see. You just couldn't, clouded with pea crystals and you couldn't even see. You'd have to shine a flashlight in there and really see the pea line. But if you didn't have a flashlight with you, well, you're just gonna gamble it.
Bro, I got flashlights stuffed in my crotch when I'm sleeping. I'm like, I'm ready, Thunder. Let's go, son. Let's go. I'm like, give him the intermittent strobe. Brrr. Give him the intermittent strobe. Give it to the neck. It's my baseline. My wife is like sleeping nicely and waking up, trying to go bathroom, and the pee bucket wasn't ready. That was my job. Every time it was my failure. Full disclosure, I accept that. But the composting toilet was a life changer, okay? But I didn't want to get in there at night because I would get up really early in the morning and I didn't want to wake up everybody else. And I'm a very regular pooper. And so I would poop in my trash can, right? I would take the trash can out of our spot in the kitchen and I would line it with a single use, grocery bag. Okay. I would just put that. I would put the toilet paper in there and then just back that thing up, tie it off, and be like, okay, that's got to go first thing in the morning, But then as Naomi got older, she'd be like, it stinks so bad out here. Someone poop. I'm like, yep, I pooped in here. She's like, why didn't you go to the bathroom? I'm like, because if I open that door, it's going to wake the baby. Don't wake the baby. It's like I've been living with hand grenades that are always just set to pull the pin. It's like Claymore mines living and sleeping and everywhere around me. Like, they could blow up at any moment. So we are like stealth mode all the time. It's never turned off. We are 8 years into it. It's been crazy. But anyways, composting toilets, y'all. Save your life. Learn to poop in the woods. I carry a copper trowel with me everywhere I go so we can poop mightily. It's wonderful and it's invigorating. It's good for you. Use big leaves. I'm just saying.
I'm sure there's so many other things you could have on hand that would be so helpful. These are just some of the things that we've realized that.
Water dispenser.
Oh man. Oh yeah, we have. We've always kind of kept a water dispenser, and that's been really helpful.
And 5-gallon jugs, 5-gallon plastic jugs. We've tried the BPA free plastics. They suck. They break all the time. We've tried the glass ones. They suck. They break all the time. You can do that if you live a bourgeois life, but if you live like a mobile life, game over, son. And one of those breaks, it's game over. You know, like we have had the blue plastic 5-gallon jugs all over the country. They work great.
Those heavy duty camping ones. What do you think about those ones?
B-. Yeah, because they and then they always lose that little nipple plug, the little nipple plug that's supposed to be in the back end. They make these 6-gallon ones that look more like jerry cans. No, listen, if you're going to get proper water jugs, get military water jerry cans. Get military grade fuel cans. Like, get the stuff that guys have fought wars with, because they're way smarter than you and they've been through a lot more hell than you have. Like, go listen to people that fought in prolonged combat, how they move water and fuel around. Use that stuff. It's way better. Don't just look at something that says military grade and trust that that's reality. Like, find out what real people use. But we have had a little water dispenser. We use those ceramic ones at times, and we would have, you know, our Berkey. We had a Berkey that we use, which was like fair to Midland. And we just, if we have good water, we just have a copper dispenser, a little copper dispenser we got off Etsy from India, because there's coppersmiths still alive out there. And we can put a 5-gallon jug on top of that thing and then reload it and keep our things going. But those are things we use like regularly. The other one, the second item I had to say that everyone overlooks, the spork. Y'all, I have had this thing from the first bug out preps that I purchased on an Amazon and credit card and got myself into hell of debt. Stupid. That got me found out later on. I had to pay that all off, every dollar. But this is a titanium light my fire spork.
We keep it in the car.
Y'all, I have used this thing all the time.
We use it all the time. We keep it in the car or your backpack, and it's just always there. And someone always needs a spoon. And Nathan's like, "Oh,
I'll be that guy.
I got that spoon that we always use with me."
I love being that guy when somebody's like, if only someone had a covert lapel dagger. Yes, get through your metal detectors with. I'm like, I got you, bro. You need to go invisible? I got you. I'm like, you need a non-ferrous spoon? I got you. I'll be that guy. I feel like a champion.
We also love the life straw. The life straw is a good thing to have in your car. What else? I don't know. You know, if you have babies, reusable diapers.
Dang it.
That should be your jam. Like, if you don't use them on a regular basis, have that. Just have a set stored up extra. I mean, I do have a set, I believe, somewhere in storage.
We've been living out of totes, guys. We still have not moved in at all. We've been living in totes since January.
I am going to, because I don't know how long the power is going to be out. I am going to go in that shed and dig through some totes and try to find them, because I need to use them. I know I was planning on using washable diapers, like the wool diapers or the organic cotton diapers. I was going to use those when I thought I was just having one baby, but then I had miracle surprise twins, and it was just too much for me to handle. And I was so sick at the time, and we didn't even have a house. And anyway, I just was like, we were living in Airbnbs and gonna have to move, and I just couldn't even handle. I was like, I am so sick. I am just trying to manage breastfeeding 2 infants instead of just 1, and trying to heal my body, and I was so wrecked, and so was Nathan. And anyway, we just couldn't even handle it at the time, and that's just being honest. I wanted to do the wool diapers and the reusable diapers. I had a whole set stocked up and stored up, and I was all ready to go. And I was very minimally, because we were minimalist, because we lived in a tiny home, I was very minimally prepared for 1 child. I was not prepared, very minimally prepared for 1 baby, let alone 2. So anyway, that's just something as a mom, if you have babies who are on formula or require diapering, definitely having some of those extra things on hand is a good idea. And also, if they do have a pacifier, that's another thing too. Pacifiers get lost all the time. Just having some backups of things, is never a bad thing. If you can swing it financially, do it. And if you can't, just, slowly set things aside little by little, as you can. Just do what you can. But just being prepared rather than being blindsided is so much better. Even though we had some major oversights and some procrastinations on things, there were some things that the Father really pressed upon us to get done, and at least we did have those. And even before the hurricane hit, Nathan was like, I'm gonna just fill up all our water jugs just in case we lose power and it takes me a while to get the generator going or whatever. And it's harder to get the water pump up and going and running. I mean, obviously we could just go down to the creek and scoop up some water, or the spring, and drink some that way out of a cup or whatever. But it's like just filling up the water jugs ahead of time. He already had the water dispenser going. I mean, it was so streamlined, and so it just makes your life so much less stressful in an already very stressful situation. And it just makes a world of difference. It really has. So anyway, good job, honey.
I felt like a champion. Like that generator turned on, and my wife looked at me with love in her eyes. She's like, I love you.
I love you. Thank you.
That's how she looked. In my mind, she's like this. It works really well.
Anyway, we hope all of you who are without power right now and have been affected by this hurricane, we hope you guys are just that you're doing okay, and that the Father will bring you provisions as you need, and that he will turn the power back on for you, and that he will turn the power back on for us, and that he will get us through this trial. If anything, we do feel like it's just preparation. Like it was a good test, and it's a good test to see where we could be more prepared. Because prepared individuals are not only prepared to take care of their own family in a disaster, but prepared individuals are more prepared to help others in that situation. And it's not all about ourselves. It's not all about just taking care of ourselves and going and hunkering down in the woods and being all alone. And, we're all squared away, but, so sorry for the rest of y'all, fending for yourselves or whatever. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about being able to love people, love your neighbor, take care of people, and help people. So
it's a lot more effective to preach the gospel to people when you're not reactionary. You know what I'm saying? Like we have an opportunity to, I'm not interested in self-preservation. Like I'm not trying to save my life. I'm not trying to preserve my life because I know that's how I'll lose it. Like I understand fundamentally, like if I can give my family basic understanding of their needs have been met and they're satisfied and taken care of, it gives us this freedom of action, this freedom of thought to be able to be action oriented and extending our hands to outreach. Yes. Like I know there's no more valuable time to witness to somebody and to give them the understanding and the revelation and the insight of who the King of Kings is and who the Redeemer from death is than when they're in that crisis, when they're in that mindset. Like I'm perpetually probing the minds and the souls of men. I'm hunting the souls of men everywhere I go, like on a regular basis. And like today, as I was going out, I was looking for opportunities to open up that conversation with them. And some of them, their cup is so full they can't physically entertain the idea of any of this, right? And then there's others who are just like so dog tired. Like understand something. Some of the linemen and some of the EMS guys and some of the state troopers and the sheriff's deputies and the paramedics, like they're smoked. Yeah. Like they're smoked, exhausted. They're running on fumes. Yeah. And so like they can't even handle anything. But if you can hand them like literally some yummy food, some sweets, some goodness, like if you can hand them something simple and just thank them so much for doing a good job, because understand a lot of them have left their families in crisis to come and do that job. A lot of them, it is their families that are suffering and they don't have communications. They don't know what's going on. They don't have power, but their husband, their father, that's men doing their job. Understand, this is the job where we can talk about equity and DEI and all this stuff about like diversity. But listen, those are the guys on the lines today. I'm going to tell you what, it's those men who are out there sucking wind, hauling wire and rebuilding the infrastructure that's destroyed, who are sinking pylons to rebuild foundations for roads that are destroyed. Like, understand, this is where men step up and become warriors and providers and protectors to their communities. And that's the times when we have the opportunity to witness to people most effectively, because the souls of men become very hungry when they're deprived of the constant brainwashing that a lot of their screens have been giving them their whole life. When those addictions turn off, they start to suddenly turn around and start looking for answers and looking for help and looking for hope. And like, one of the other people at a gas station that I went to later on, because dude, I was hitting up every place for propane. You know, that was my run today. I was like, I'm going to get all the propane. Like, watch me take the cash that we have stored on hand. Thank you. There was a family who literally sent us cash last week. Yeah. Like last week, somebody sent us a bunch of cash and we were able to get propane with it today. Like, like we can cook today because we had that cash on hand. Like that was such a blessing. And the Father met our needs before we even knew it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we were faithful to guard the feast. We were faithful to guard the Sabbath. And like, I wanted to go out and get all those things that I knew. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't get those. I didn't get that. Like, I'm going to trust the Father's like, sit down on the Sabbath, guard the Sabbath, be the night watchman of the Sabbath, fiercely rest on the Sabbath. And I'm like, okay. But my mind was all like, you know, like it's like upside there. It's just crazy. That's why she got to feed me crazy rich food all the time. But I was like, you know what? First gas station I pulled into today, I go in there and I'm like, hey, you guys have any propane? You know? And she's like, I got one bottle. And I'm like, great. Because that's like another day. You know, I could pull that thing off for 8 to 12 hours. And I'm like, we're going to be all right. You know, like I can kick the can down the road a little bit and give me some breathing room. Because that morning I woke up, I was freaking out. I'm like, I got to build some kind of system. You know, and I'm about to get crazy with propane. It's going to get volatile up in here. But I was like, you know what? She went out there and opened the cage up. And she's like, oh, apparently I got a whole cage full of it. And I'm like, oh, what didn't you know that? I'm like, you know, you think I could get a few more of these? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, how about 4? And she's like, 4. And I'm like, oh yeah, 4. We'll do 4. We'll do 4. I go back in. I'm like, I get the 4. And I'm like, yeah. And then I go back in. I talk to a different cashier. And I'm like, hey, can I get some propane? And she's like, sure. And I'm like, how about 5? How about 5? She's like, oh, yeah, okay. And she talks to the other gal. And I'm like, changed hats, changed clothing, urban camouflage. You know what I'm saying? You guys do? If you watch my Way of the Blade of the Day videos, you know about some of this. Urbanite. I sent Chelsea a picture. Honey, I try to make you proud out there. This is my tradecraft. Finally pays off. I'm like, finally. I've been waiting for the world to end my whole life. I'm like, finally, the old man can come out of the closet and be a monster in a nice way, you know? Like, it just helps to know these skills that have been kicking around in the closet in my head forever, and you just don't get to deploy them very often. But it's like, she got out and she opened the cage, and that's the lady who was just coming out of criminal world. You know what I'm saying? She lives off the mountain, and she's losing her mind, and she's just like, dazed out of her mind. And I'm like trying to, anyways, I get 5 more bottles from her and I load those up in the van. Praise y'all for minivans where you can take out their seats. Hallelujah. But then I'm like, okay, let's go to the next stores. And so I hit up, oh yeah, man, I'm not messing around. I was trying to teach Naomi about like, we're trying to like data dump a whole bunch of information into my children today about like everything, because you're like, we might have to cross a lot of thresholds on a very fast, rapid basis here. Things can deteriorate quickly. You know, like we've seen people go nuts in 12 hours, in a few hours. But anyways, I went to the next store and I'm like going, I eye out all of their propane canisters on the outside and start looking for which ones have tabs and which ones that don't, because then I can get an idea of like all these need refilling and all these ones are potentially still full. So I can have an idea when I go into the store of asking about what's a ballpark amount I think I can get away with without this guy freaking out about me buying all of his up. And then I can pass the word down the network that there's still some at this store and there's still some at this store and all the rest of it, right? So I go into that store and there's lines up everywhere because it's cash only and it's crazy. And anyways, I finally get some more propane. This guy at the cash register is a stinking mess. He's so exhausted. He doesn't want to be there. And I could tell the dude's like dead on his feet, tired. Because
are they doing calculator? How are they?
Nope, they had scanning. So this grocery store had power. They had power, but they weren't doing any debit or any plastic, right? So they took cash only. But the guy who went to take me out of that guy couldn't listen to me to save my life. He kicked me out of his line already once.
Which means it took away all the self-checkouts.
Yeah, praise Yah. Robots be done, son. Anyways, but like, so I listen, just how I go into a store like that, right? I go in under one basic loadout that I'm looking like person. You know, you can make people think you're just one kind of a person when you go in looking like a certain thing, but then you go out. I bought a whole load of groceries, like a lot, enough to make people be like, wow, you really are getting a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know. And then you're trying to probe to see who's ready to receive the idea that this may not be, listen, you may think that whiskey is the thing you need today. There's a lot more important things that are out there. Like the guy behind me, I had my second run back into the store. I go out, I unload all that stuff into the vehicle, right? I come back into the store in a different person, right? And then I get diapers and propane. Those 2. That's it. Just cart full of them, you know? And then I go take that stuff out and go back in for a third load, you know? Like wow. That's like how I navigated it, you know? I don't want to have too obvious of a target. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what level we're at this stage in life. You know, like people can be opportune. There's a lot of people in the parking lot just watching everybody and what they're doing and what they're loading in their vehicles. I understand the game. You know what I'm saying? Like they're looking for opportunistic, easy hunts. You know, that's how I view the situation. Probably not how you would have seen it, but that's how I saw it. So I figured take decent, reasonable sized loads that are still, rather than getting 6 grocery carts full of it and asking everyone to come help me take all of this at once, marking myself and getting flagged and then somebody following me for a long ways. Anyways, that's how my mind worked. But I loaded up and got propane, and then I went back to the same stores, got the rest, more propane. You know, I went back for more each time, and I began to see what kind of people at each of one of these checkouts and registers. And this one guy had his mindset of, was like, you know, we haven't been able to get water, so I know that they set up these like government aid stations and water stations and all the rest of it, and that's where they're telling all of us to go to get suit. He's like, so I think that's probably where I'm going to go. And I was like, listen, you have the opportunity. You're living in an area right now, at least for the next 8 to 12 hours, that's chill. You know, how about you think like the people up here are, which means the power may not come back on for a week or 2 or 3. What do you think people will be like then? And he's like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. I'm like, you should be the person thinking about it. I was like, rather than being the person that is dependent on the system to provide for you what you think you need, I'm like, how about you be the guy who's able to provide the needs of those people that are around you? I'm like, do the people in your neighborhood have basic provisions, do you think? He's like, no, none of us have water. And I'm like, so where are you right now? Somewhere that has water. You can be the guy who has some water, and you can selectively distribute that out to people and have an opportunity to be somebody helping provide the needs for the people around them carefully, cautiously, but also then you're in a peace of mind where you're not reactionary like all the rest. And I was like, hey, then you're no longer one of the dependents, you know? And he received it. He had the ability to receive that and understand that. And it was a paradigm shift for him. And he was able to like hold that thought. But you got to sift through the people as you're out there, you guys, like understand that's part of it. But these were just some of my takeaways from like the day, you know, like other people that were in the network, they had generators, but same thing. They had the same issue that I had with the propane and the other stored up fuels like gasoline. If you store up gasoline, it needs stabilizers that have to be added 100% certainly. Otherwise it will go bad, but there was no gas stations. Yeah. So there's no gas. Oh, the gas station, of course, the gas stations were off. I did. I went back to go fill up before the whole thing was going down. I took the children. I'm like, we better go fill up all the gas. So I'm glad I did that. And so even now, listen to this. This is how insane it was. There's a gas station that I went to today that they had all the signs, you know, no gas. There were like, as soon as it started, as soon as they lost power, they put out a notice that there was no gas for anyone. They still had battery or generator power at that gas station, and they could still run their pumps. However, they put their policy at the store was that if they can't take credit card and debit card, they will not take gas. They will not sell any of the fuel that they had in their tanks. So this gas station refused to service all the first responders that came up there, the linemen, the paramedics, the firefighters, the state troopers, the sheriffs. They refused to service any of them until today. This is now 3 days later. So that delayed all of these crews that were trying to come up here to work on everything. None of them could get fuel. None of them could get fuel because the gas station refused to give it to them because of policy, because you got a bunch of robot drones that are punching numbers and don't know how to critically think, you know? And so it wasn't until I talked to the owner this morning and she's like, yeah, I overrode that this morning. And I was like, you know what? We'll figure it out. They're corporate. They got big enough contracts and companies that they'll pay us back eventually. That was somebody who could critically think, you know, but like understand just even at that level, that's the level of idiocracy that's been bred into our culture. And that kind of stuff can shut down first responders. They can get trapped in stranded places because they cannot get fuel for themselves to even be able to finish their job or do their job and be able to go home. So just another piece of annotation of information that I discovered today along the way. But yeah, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot. And I love these situations. I do, because I finally feel like we can utilize I can utilize a side of the way my mind works more effectively. Like I don't fit in well into the normie world. It's awkward and it's hard work, and it's always hard work because I feel like I've got to play a part out there in normal society that's very uncomfortable. Whereas when the world is like this and people are scared and people are nervous and chaotic, I'm like, oh, finally, it's so much easier. Because to me, that's like how my whole life was structured early on, was that destabilized, chaotic, not knowing what's going to happen. Like it made me cultivate that mentality of my mind, and it made me learn how to navigate in a in a society that didn't have a rule of law, like in a society that didn't navigate by the same rules as everybody else. So like I've had to try to train her in understanding how the world is in a society that wasn't like that, so I had to press her into going past no trespassing signs. I had to press her into breaking rules. I had to press her into like doing things that the authorities told you not to do. Like I had to walk her on a journey across to the other side, and she's helped me to become more accustomed to being on the other side.
The normies, like he likes to say, I'm pretty normie.
But it's helped you navigate some of these things.
Yeah.
Like I told her today, I was like, you know what, honey? Like I turned on these lights for the first time, and I was like, honey, this is the time when being a husband like matters most. I'm a stressed out guy a lot of the time, but you know what? It feels a lot better to have all of those little like craziness. What do you call me? The hall monitor guy. Was monitoring our levels and our power and our water and our levels all the time, But like during crisis, when it's not there and you can still provide a level of comfort of home for your family, oh, you're the hero, And this is when men are tested, Like there was a dad today at the store who had 2 little daughters like mine, and he didn't have the fluoride stare, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't just like in the. I don't mean it to be critical. Like I'm trying to give an accurate statement about like the reality of the citizens around me. Like, yeah, I know. There's a difference. There's a reason we're like, drink spring water, it'll change your life. It really will. It's not a joke. We're like, wear natural fiber garments. Like when you wear natural fiber garments, it seems crazy and stupid to somebody on far away. But like, listen, dude, I ran around in wool during a hurricane in like these ponchos, and I freaking crushed life out there. Like I felt great because wool retains its warmth. Even when it's saturated, it'll retain 80% of its ability to keep you warm when it's wet. Your cotton won't do that. Your polyester won't do that. None of that. Your down won't do that. Nothing. No other fiber does that. That's why, like, I have that. Grab that. That's my favorite, buddy, brosif. This thing's amazing. I love the poncho effect. No, well, you've been wearing that. You stole that from me. I love it. This thing, like we got these wool trench coat. What are these ponchos? I don't even. What do you call these things?
Wool pea coats.
Lock that guy down.
Wool pea coats.
Wool pea coats.
Wool pea coats. They're actually very, like, nice jackets. They're nice. They're city slicker dressy warm winter jacket. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's good urbanite camouflage. People don't think you're some creeper in the woods. You know what I'm saying?
A pea coat.
It's a pea coat. It's moderately formal. I put these little toggles on there.
Wool, and they're so thick. They're 100% like felted. I think this is felted wool. It's felted wool. It's super thick, so warm, and they're long. They're long.
You want to go like to your knees at least, because that's where the water will shed. The water will shed. I saw a guy at Cirucci who made his own out of a poncho, a GI Army issue wool blanket that he cut out and made a hood. And then he wore that thing in deluges. He wore that thing all the time. And I was like, bro, this is genius. Mad respect, man. Because like, listen, I take note when somebody is effectively moving out in inclement weather and not moping and whining and groping about it. I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to everything you do in your life. Like, I'm going to learn some lessons from you. And like, he used materials, native materials to make himself clothing, all of it. And he was like, well, in case the Father calls me and I've got to take the clothes on my back and nothing else, I want to make sure that the clothes that are on my back are fantastic and I can make them. So like he made his own leather vest. That's why like I run around with a buckskin leather vest. Like I love these natural materials. We are doing leather craft activities. When the power was out, we're doing leather craft activities because it's a renewable resource. Like I can butcher these animals. I went and learned artisanal butchering, so I can butcher and I can take meat and make meat for my family off of hoofs. We can now take that and make leather, and we can make tools and clothing. Like it's amazing how good buckskin feels on your body. I've got a buckskin.
What do you got there? Oh no. Oh no. Oh, I know where he's going with this. Oh my. That's a loincloth. Yes. Yes, it's a loincloth. Hilarious. It's hysterical.
It leaves my thighs quite exposed.
He was very hot this summer. And he was like, I just need a loincloth. I'm so hot. I need to be like the natives.
It's not a joke, you guys. The buckskin stinking wreck shop. It's the best fabric I've ever had in my life. Like leather buckskin. Hey, I even learned, listen, they used gazelles. I'm reading this book, Sacagawea Lives. What is it called? Dagummit. Sacagawea Speaks. The author is Hunsar. Anyways, I'm reading this book on Sacagawea Speaks to Naomi because I'm like, Naomi gets to stay up late. And so we read crazy, ridiculous books like all about Sacagawea because I called my wife Sacagawea, the lover of birds. And in there, I learned something about antelopes, pronghorn antelopes, the kind that are on the plains. They preferred their buckskin, their leather was their preferred for the summer and the spring because it was lighter and it was cooler. Whereas deer buckskin is hotter. It's hotter. And let me tell you, it'd be hot up in there. But when you got these breezes, son, it covers the buttocks and the crotch. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no mystery moments when these flaps sometimes lift up. This covers your front half and this covers your hinder quarters. You know what I'm saying? Now, so that leaves your thighs, this free flow zone to just move and maneuver. It's amazing. You feel invigorated, you know, like I like these ultra light stuff. Because sometimes I just want to put on a blade, a flashlight, and go into the forest with these. I feel like amazing. I feel amazing. Very primitive ways. That's like the very low level of it. But it feels great. Anyways, that's like the stuff we're learning along the way. It's super fun. Because that is reproducible. That's reproducible. And that's like a thing that's out here in abundance.
I'm going to make Abraham one.
The Reynolds need lots of buckskin. It's like we're like Amazon wish list. Just put it in there. Lots of buckskin. So I'm like, I want my son to wear one. I want it to go over his diaper. And even if we got,
so cute.
I want him to have one.
Gosh,
it'll be awesome.
Adorable. He'll love it. He'll love it.
He's my guy, bro. He's so thudly. He's so powerful. And he like played out in the rain, just naked, just was splashing in the hurricane and just for like an hour and a half, just having the time of his life.
He was like giggling and running in the mud and just downpouring, and he just was so happy. It was so cute. He was making the best of it.
Just let him go make mud. That was the lesson. You learned that along the way.
Let him play in the mud. Oh, some days I'm like, they're like, we're gonna go out and splash in the rain. And I'm like, don't get in the mud. Don't get in the mud. I have this picture of Naomi Grace standing outside of my motorhome. And she's like this. And she's covered from, like you can barely see her eyes, the whites of her eyes. And she's covered from head to toe, fingers to toes in mud. Her and her other friend Naomi, the other Naomi, they love to go and I don't want to say get into trouble. They like to go find adventurous ways of playing. And anyway, they went and found a puddle and just had a ball in this mud. And I was like, she goes, Mom, I'm ready to come in and take a hot shower. I was like, you ain't coming inside, honey. Get out there. I'm gonna hose you off with the ice cold hose. And she goes, no. And I was like, yep, I'm hosing you off. You went and got in the mud. And she goes, if I go find another clean puddle, can I just go rinse off in that? And I was like, sure. She went and found a clean puddle, a clean, warm puddle.
The negotiator.
Naomi, the negotiator. Anyway, she found a clean puddle. She cleaned herself off. Then I let her come in and shower. But yeah, it was oh, Naomi. Yes, the mud. But let him play in the mud. Let them play in the mud. It's good for them. And I have to remind myself of this, like, because sometimes I'm just like, oh, the mess of it all. Like, I just got the floor swept. I just got the bathroom cleaned. Like, do you have to? I just got the laundry done and put away. And oh, you're going to come in with all the muddy clothes and the muddy feet and the muddy, and just track it everywhere. And just, it's going to get everywhere. And you just have to get over it. Let them play in the mud. It's part of child development. It's good. It's healthy. It's good for them. They need it. They need to play in the mud. They need to make mud cakes. They need to build mud castles. They need to play in the mud. They need to even eat the mud. Pearl eats the mud sometimes. All the time. She loves that mud. Yeah. Anyway. She eats
the gravel. Listen, they need those minerals. Don't knock that mud out of their mouth unless it's covered in petroleum waste. It's the only time I'm like, Naomi, if it's sheeny and rainbowy, it's a no-go. It's a no-go. You know, but it's good. It's good. These have been the lessons learned in the eye of the storm, you know. I'm glad you came along. This was way more joyful and jovial. It's a whole lot less squad tactics and how Minutemen should prepare. I had a whole other set of things prepared. But it's great. Listen, tactical philosophy, just for what it's worth. I'm just saying. Guys, I have a subscription, like the people I subscribe to, on my YouTube channel. That's a data dump. Go check it out. Go find some perusing of interesting people out there. Those are the people that Mr. Freak Show level polydactyl freak guy out there looks at. I'm like, yep, I go data dump from these people. That's one of them. Active self-protection. Highly recommended. Look what actual encounters take place and look like, like seriously, guys, like understand 80% of all uses of a firearm happen within 6 yards. Just keep it in mind. Shot placements, everything. Standardize your loadouts. Well, oh, you're just ready to bail. I'm like ready to get into shooting gun stuff.
I should probably go to bed soon.
Yeah. She's like, I should go to bed. It's past my bedtime. It's my bedtime. The babies will keep us.
Who knows what tomorrow's gonna bring?
True.
So I can't worry about it. I need to go to sleep.
That's right. I got to be up in 4 hours. May as well get to it. Anyways, we love you guys. Thank you for all your ridiculously wonderful support and prayers and encouragement. Hey, listen, we've been supported and sojourned and sheltered from many storms all across this country. And we got to experience what the beautiful gift is of leaving your family, your friends, and everyone else. Like Yeshua came to bring a sword. Like he said, I am here to divide families, to separate men and mothers and daughters and sisters, and to set people against each other. Like he came to bring a great sifting savage sword. And you know what? If you won't leave your family, if you won't leave your farms, your vineyards, your fields, if you won't leave the world of comfortability and go follow Yeshua, like you won't go follow him all the way to the bitter end, listen, there ain't nothing for you but destruction and plagues and storms and chaos. But you go follow him. You go all in for his kingdom and you follow his voice and you hearken unto his words. Listen, he will provide for you an endless abundance of much more than you could ever hope or imagine, beyond your wildest dreams of wonderful, if you go on that journey with him. And it will be through perilous country, but there will be a narrow way out. He is taking care of us and shown us that time and time again. And you know what? My faith got renewed this morning. And you know what? As much as we've had it tested over the years, he has always proved himself faithful. We have seen him always be faithful to us, even in the most ridiculous. Like my wife was getting ready to give birth to a baby in a forest in Missouri with a hot water tank that was heated by a wood stove, by an Amish hot water heater that some friends dropped off to us. And we're like, you can borrow this, but we're going to need it back. It was an Amish hot water tank. And then she was going to give birth in an animal trough. That was the plan, in a tent. Okay. In a tent.
In the woods.
No midwife. None of that. None of that. That's what she's like, that level committed. You hardcore, baby. You come a long way. I'm real proud of you. You come a long way. That's what, like, she was ready to do that, and instead, like, we ended up in an Airbnb. Hey, we had some other friends.
The bathtub.
And you gave birth to those babies in my hands and a copper basin.
And he faithfully delivered me. He faithfully delivered my life through the whole birth of the miracle twins, and faithfully delivered their lives, and has been helping nurse us back to health ever since. He's been so faithful. He's been so faithful. So we can put our trust in him, even when there's a hurricane.
That's right. That's
right. And no power.
He'll provide and he'll sustain you. But you know what? You got to deepen your faith and your convictions like never before, because that's where it comes from. Ultimately, that's what gives us the calm in the storm, is his power and his ruach, his spirit working through us, and live powerful, productive lives, even amidst of chaos. But you know what? He is the Prince of Peace, but he is a warrior. Hallelujah. And that's why I serve him, because Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. And I love him because of that, because he's fierce and he's relentless. And not one word has ever come out of his mouth. Everything he has ever said will certainly come to pass. And you know what? So guard his word, store it up in your heart diligently. I've stored up your word in your heart, in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Blessed are you, O Yahweh. Like, teach me your promises. Listen, the Psalm 119 challenge still stands for every one of you guys. Psalm 119. You memorize Psalm 119, I will send you a savage blade. You know what I'm saying? Sweet, amazing, beautiful Amy out there in the hinterlands, not here in America, crushed it. Dude, teenager schooled the homies on the Psalm 119 challenge, and she scored the Nara custom blade. She crushed it. Made her weep.
I was like tearing up. I was like, that was seriously one of the most incredible and beautiful things I've ever seen. Like, good job. I am so proud of you for doing that. That was so impressive. Like, and just I mean, I don't know how long the video was. I think it was like 20 minutes long of her just reciting scripture from memory. Like, that is amazing. How many people can sit there and recite scripture from memory for 20 minutes? Dang. Like, that's awesome. It was so awesome. Oh, me and my girls have been working on Proverbs 31, and it's 31 verses, and it's been taking us quite a while, but we're getting there, and we're gonna put a little video out, and we wanted to do a scripture challenge for everyone, like from children to grandmas and grandpas, like everyone and anyone who wants to memorize passages of scripture. We will send you treasure. You send us your recording of you doing a passage of scripture, and a passage, I mean like a chapter, right? Like
If you can.
a good
Even if
chapter
you,
of
hey, if your
scripture.
little ones can only do some little verses,
Hey, there's
bros,
a little chapter,
we still got little
or
challenges and
little
treasures for
chunk,
them.
a
You know
little
what I'm saying?
passage of scripture. Yeah, a good
Listen,
section.
we had 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds do James chapter 4 or chapter 1. James 1. 4-year-olds slaying it. Bro, I gave them the biggest seashell I ever found in my life. I'm like, you get it, son. You get it. Nature Net gives you all the treasure.
Yeah, but we want people to memorize his word. We want them to write those words on their hearts and write them on their children's hearts. And you know what's so beautiful about it is, as you teach these scriptures to your children, you're writing that word on your heart. I'm literally learning Proverbs 31 because I'm teaching it to my children and my girls, and and it's amazing because, like, as we memorize it, like, it's stuck in there. It is stuck in there. It is so cool. And like, Yah will bring it to mind, like, like as you need it, like throughout your life and throughout your day. And it's just beautiful. It's so cool. So anyway, teach your children scripture, memorize it with them, or memorize it for yourself. And it's amazing. So yeah, scripture challenge. If anyone memorizes it, and you can send us a little clip of you doing it, and your address, we would love to send you a treasure.
Listen, our little pocket scripture, do you have one right there? Oh, no, it might be in my bag. Just go right in my bag right there. Listen, this is the reason we say this stuff, you guys, is like, of anything that you can store up and you can take with you anywhere, it's the scriptures, the things you've written on your heart, and the skills that you can take with you. Like, we went and intensely studied and learned and got better at certain skills. Dig a rummage in there. If you hand me the entirety of the bag, no, it's okay. It's so, that's okay. Anyways, it's a tiny Bible put out by ISR Scriptures. We like it. It's wonderful. We would prefer a waterproof one. Just hand me that one. We would love the waterproof, tear-proof scripture that we could get. The problem is it's put out by it's being run by a company that's a bunch of criminals. Hallelujah Scriptures. Unfortunately, some of the most criminal, horrific monsters at the top of this thing. I'm not saying that lightly. I've done diligence. Horrific, evil, abominable criminals running this thing. Anyways, Hallelujah Scriptures puts out a waterproof version of it. I would love to put out my own that's not filled with the disgusting criminal behaviors of these people that are running this. Otherwise, see, I literally scratched it off of there, man. I got pissed, son, because I wanted to be able to stand there and do immersions and read the Bible to people as we did it. And unfortunately, I used to promote these things like crazy because they float and they're waterproof and they're tear-proof and they're awesome. And they have the restored names, which is great. But Hallelujah Scriptures, they have these. The criminals that you have to send your email to in order to talk to them, yeah, those people. Unfortunately, they take everyone's information and refuse to let anybody else run that show because they're running from all the people that are trying to prosecute them. Just back to those people that need the sword. Pray for a heart attack to stop their hearts. Anyways, it's disgusting. There's no greater evil in this world than people that are masquerading as shepherds or as servants of the Most High, and using that, they're using it as they're using the gospel as a greediness for gain, like detestable things. Yahweh hates that stuff, and so do I. Anything he says he hates, I hate. He hates that stuff. So do I. And you know what? I'm all in for his kingdom of retribution in that regard. So I pray that he deals justly with that, and he knows how to do that just the way he sees fit. So pray that he does it and raises up other people that can put out translations that aren't seeking unfruitful gains. You know what I'm saying? Pray for that, you guys. These are the things that we long for. We long with the LinenRailroad to be able to make sure people had provisions, that they had the water of the word in there. That's why I did the audio recording of the scriptures. I did that so people could download it instantly. I didn't want to put it behind some stupid paywall and all the other garbage that people got to jump through. I wanted people to be like, hey, listen, you want to be able to listen to the audio on the scriptures? Awesome. Here's it from Genesis to Revelation, read in a pretty good voice, as best as I could do. You know what I'm saying? I sat in a stinking car and recorded recorded that at our dining room table and our kitchen table, like sat there 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. doing that for weeks because I was like, hey, we're probably going to die. So why not try to get this out there before that happens? That's kind of always my mentality. And you know what? The Father was very good to help me finish that job. I felt like if anything I've done in the entirety of my life was to give people the word from beginning to end, because otherwise it's all just Nathanisms. Like, just take the word as it is. And so I wanted people to be able to download it instantly and have that with them and take it with them anywhere and be able to listen to his word. Like, I believe that thing should always be available to those that seek it, and I had this desire to have waterproof Bibles that we could give to people because I know, like, I literally live in a rainforest. I got to have something that's waterproof like that, that's durable, that's Nate proof, and so, like, that was my heart, and I was looking for it, and I was looking for a way. We wanted to get all this grain so we could give out grain to his people. Like, these are the core tenets of the Linen Railroad, was to make sure people had natural fiber clothing, they had grain on hand, they could store up, and perishable seeds, non-perishable seeds, and organic heirloom seeds. Like, we wanted to send these things out with little treasures. Like, watch the Linen Railroad. Anyways, it's still, like, near and dear to our heart, no matter whatever circumstances we're going through. But it's because we wanted to cover his people. Like, we want to help to prepare for days of chaos that we know are coming and are inevitable. We wanted to do that to the best of our ability. And you know what? Oh, it's been quite a wild journey of going through a lot of these experiences, but he's been very good and faithful to us. And we hope you guys would store up his word, that you guys would understand that that's where we get our bread. Naomi she fasted on the Day of Atonement almost entirely for the first time in her life. And listen, she learned some lessons out of it. And it was beautiful to see her getting to a place of maturing enough to understand how much she craved the food, like, craved it. Like, she kept telling her body no, like, throughout the day. She got crankier, but but she told her body no. Like, she disciplined herself. It wasn't us, like, telling her, like, we were, like, kind of like, if you want to eat a little, like, rice, we only offer rice. We're like, on fast days, it's like, you can have rice if you want to tap. But she refused. She abstained. She had self-control, which is like, just, it was beautiful. And I asked her right before we started to eat, I'm like, honey, how much are you wanting that food right now? And she's like, oh, so much. And I was like, that's the hunger and the longing we should have for his word. Like, that hanging on his word should be that level of hunger. Like you were describing other fasting experiences where you were, like, literally reading his word, and it was like you were eating bread. I was like, nom, 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 nom. It's like, there's nothing in this world that can satisfy you. Somebody wrote on a comment that they went 7 days without food and water. Everyone's like, you can only go 3 days without water. Bro, you can't go 5 seconds without water if you're in doofus level panic zone. Like, people die all the time for nothing. People die from fear of looking after those things coming up on the earth. Like, people die from fear. They may have had plenty of water and plenty of food and all the rest, and they can die from that. But if you have faith in your heart and you know where to go get fed, you go to that word and it'll sustain you and satisfy you like nothing else on this earth. No amount of electricity and water and creature comforts can satisfy you like his word can. And so we hope you guys would be invigorated by his word continually. We can't thank you guys enough for all of the wonderful many miles and many memories that you have given us over the years. And whatever is to come, y'all willing, we can put out lots more of these. And if we can't, you never hear from us again, know that we love you, and you need to go fight your fate, go fight the furious fight of the faith all the way to the finish line. You know what I'm saying? Right. We love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.